Comedy and Boom, welcome back, guys. Welcome. How are you guys feeling about your chances overall here at this Console Wars?
We feel pretty good because we practiced a lot against Flashpoint and Fable, and we have like draft against them.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a really good chance of winning this. We came in here the underdogs, but I feel we'll take it. We scrimmed yesterday, and we feel comfortable.
Talk to me a little bit kind of about your roster and specifically Jordan, who was not able to be with us today, unfortunately. How has this affected you guys going into this event? And how have you just frankly adjusted? Because roster problems are not something we're not familiar with at this point.
It affected us a lot because it was in the last week, and we only had 1 week to practice, and we had to pick up a new player that we didn't practice that much with.
Yeah. I think we definitely had a problem at first, but I think right now we're feeling more comfortable with Neil just because his comms are really good. So yeah.
Did you start putting more time in scrims because of the new addition to your roster, or did you take the same approach as before?
Yeah, we try to get as much screens as we can so we can have like more chemistry with our new player.
Did that cause you to have to make any uncomfortable adjustments to your team, your compositions at all, or was Richie able to pretty much just slot in where Jordan left?
No, it was Neil who switched. Yeah. But Neil, I think he has more variety. Like he can play the Grover, the Pip, whereas Jordan could play Sarah's Generals mainly. So yeah.
You mentioned that comms were pretty strong with Neil. Have comms always been strong with your team in general, or did this add an extra boost?
This added an extra boost because Neil's comms are really perfect to help us play aggro and pass out at the same time.
Yeah, it's not really comms. It's just he calls more shots, more plays that we should be making, as far as what we should be doing. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What team do you have your eyes on as competition?
Fable.
Yeah, Fable.
So Flashpoint obviously doesn't have Swiper, and that's going to be your all's first round matchup today. You guys play second. Do you think that's Fable's who you're going to be seeing in the finals? Is that your kind of what your goal is and what your eyes are set on, or are you worried about Flashpoint?
Flashpoint is something to worry about because they're all really good players, but Swiper was their main star player, and he's the best player on EU PS4, and him not being here affected him by a lot.
Yeah, I think with him not being here, it definitely affected him a lot.
You mentioned adopting an aggressive and passive style. Would you say you employ that often within your play, or do you have kind of a distinct style for your team?
Yeah, time to time we try to play really aggressive so we can make them stay in base, but sometimes we play passive so we don't get staggered.
Yeah, we definitely try and watch lanes in the beginning, see what they're doing, and then play aggressive off that.
So the game's changed a lot, obviously, since HRX. How would you say your guys' team have adapted, have changed? Have you guys taken any particular style that you like? Have you watched PC to see maybe what you could cherry pick from that meta, or do you guys try to just do your own thing and play the game the way you think it needs to be played?
Yeah, I came from PC, so I know a lot of PC players like Ozone, Random Noob. I see them play a lot in pucks, and they help me put the meta into the console league.
Yeah, I think with the PPL, we've definitely been watching VODs, and I think a lot of the characters that are prioritized on PC will see prioritized on console as well.
So there's nothing you don't think that you guys can't pull off that the PC players can pull off at this point?
Yes.
I would say probably Pip solo heals. You don't really see that, but it can kind of be pulled off a little bit.
Are there any champions that you think are going to be very key pickups in this console scene for the LAN?
Probably Dragos. Dragos a lot.
Really?
Yeah, the new Dragos buff.
The new Dragos buff is really good.
I would say
console.
Cassie and BK. Those three are really strong right now.
Is there anything about this LAN environment that you think is going to amp up your play style?
I like the meta, the 2 bans. That helps our chance of winning higher.
Cool. I don't have any more questions. I'm good to go. All right. Good luck, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Hey, guys. Welcome back into the Paladins console LAN here. We are so excited seeing a bit of the players here. It's going to be a great matchup. I think Flashpoint and Onslaught were one of those where you don't necessarily have that kind of #1 seed like we did for Fable and thinking, these guys are going to win, but anything can happen here, as we've just seen.
Anything can. It's really a region of, or a whole system of upset potential right now.
So
and
much.
The adaptation that needs to come out at LAN from both of these teams, the potential for that, the threshold has never been higher, and I'm really excited to see how both of these teams step up to the challenge.
You know, I think challenge is really what is showing up here, guys. Rain Day and Vox for you on the desk, getting ready to go here. My big question, obviously, is going to be, you know, in your eyes, Vox, does anybody stand out? I had a chance to talk with the Flashpoint guys. I didn't get a chance to talk with the Onslaught guys, though. Is there anything that you're looking at heading into the start of this set?
Well, really having had the chance, I spoke a little bit with both of them. Now, typically I've spoken more with Flashpoint.
Sure.
They happened to be at the studio a little bit earlier, but Onslaught happened to chat to them a little bit after they'd been scrimming Flashpoint and been wondering, like, hey, how's this been going for you? How'd this cross-region play go? You get a good warm-up in? They go, yeah. They weren't looking too hot. They weren't too worried about it. They were just
really
confident. And that was really what came out from that whole conversation.
And obviously, you know, playing with Jordan throughout the entire online time, and now in LAN, having to adjust. Hated on Xbox, getting picked up, I'm pretty sure. I have seen this guy play on PS4. I kind of coined it. Hated on Xbox, feared on PS4 when we saw him playing. And now switching over for this event, there's going to be a lot that I think is on his shoulders to perform. He is that flex role for them. I saw him playing Khan actually earlier in some of these earlier scrims and moments. And so I wonder, you know, do you think Khan is going to have an impact? Because we've seen Drogoz and Tyra already make one.
It's a difficult question, right? I think the real value from Khan comes not from the fact that you can throw people off the map with your ultimate, but more you can just pick them up, turn and burn. And really, so far, I don't think we've seen maps where that kind of reposition potential is super useful, right? That's the kind of thing that you want to pull out where you can isolate somebody and pull them away from the rest of their team. Something like an Ascension Peak or a Stone Keep. But so far, it's been these relatively flat two-dimensional maps, and it's not maybe the most useful champion to have there. I'm not really sure why you'd want to pick up a Khan instead of maybe even the Tyrannus.
It's a good question, and we also had some questions for the Flashpoint guys a little earlier, so let's see what they had to say about their upcoming match.
So, North America has won every one of these tournaments so far, but this roster, for the most part, it has been pretty consistent with what you guys played with at HRX. How do you guys feel about your chances going into this event?
Well, I'm very confident because my man here, Legacy, bringing him on the team, he's always been the sub, he's always been practicing with us, and it's finally his shot to really shine, and I'm more than confident in his ability and the rest of my team. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's like I've never been on a team that isn't second place. Like I've never come low. I've played at every tournament ever and never come lower than second. So like I've always been a good player. But now like with Swiper being away, like I actually get a chance to play, and it's unfortunate that we don't have him. But like the roster is still really strong.
How would you guys say losing Swiper so close to the event affected you guys? Were you prepared for this? Did you have to make any adjustments to draft compositions, things that you're comfortable running?
Swiper's very vocal in the game, which is like a great person to have in the team. So having him not here it's a big like blow because you know he's a great guy and he'd love to be here. Yeah. And it has affected our drafts a bit. Don't want to give too much away. Yeah. But we've worked around it. We're gonna swap a few roles. You know, our healer might be playing damage sometimes, and our damage might be on healer. So, but we'll make it work. We're confident.
I think if anything, that was kind of motivated us more to like actually win it for him because he is like the main person on the team. Like when everyone thinks of our team, is Swiper the one. So like, I think it just motivates us more than anything to actually go and win it.
Doing proud.
So how's the morale with you guys? How's the confidence level? You travel quite a bit here. Is everyone feeling good?
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, woke up this morning and we were like, we're winning that. We're doing it. We're sending it all the way. So
full send.
We've been practicing hard, and I believe in my team.
The belief is there, and so execution-wise, I think, what do you guys expect to bring to the table to this matchup, knowing it is do or die? And obviously, you know, opponents who are just as excited as you are, what's the edge? What are you guys thinking is kind of your ace in the hole?
We're very flexible with our drafts.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't have a really narrow hero pool. I could happily play almost any damage hero in the game and any flanker in the game, and maybe any healer in the game. Who knows?
Can't be leaking that.
Exactly. So I think our ability to adapt situations and just kind of just persevere no matter what. If we're losing, we don't get like tilted. We don't like start no sweat really. We just like round by round. We take a round at a time. So
yeah, definitely.
So the game's changed a lot since HRX, and I just want to get your guys' thoughts on how you've adapted or how you've changed, if there's been any particular styles that you've kind of gone with since that, something that you can identify your team around.
I guess with Swiper it was more of like off picks, like we could pick basically anything and do fine, but I think without Swiper it hasn't really like affected us too badly, but the draft, like there are a few heroes that we can't play now.
And
So
with OB70 coming out as well,
Yeah.
We haven't really practiced on it much because it kind of dropped just before we flew out.
Yeah.
So we're going to be like
yeah, there
Drogos
are
got
a lot of things that we need to test a little more.
Yeah,
and
so
things like that.
we're kind of going into the first game like, is Drogos going to be really good? Is Khan a hero? So we're like excited to see like how the meta's actually changed. So
Yeah.
How much would you guys say you watch PC and take from that, or do you guys just try to play what's going to win in your games?
The game is really different from PC to console, so like we watch it and we look for like a start point, and then it's like, oh, this character's doing well, let's give it a go, and then we see how it kind of does on console, and then if it's good, it sticks. And
exactly, yeah, 100%.
I think that's the best way to
copy the draft and then we play it, and it's like, well, this doesn't really work. Because for example, like Cassie's like on PC, she's like first pick, right? She's a great hero, and she's great on console, but you can't hit all those shots. You can hit most of the shots, but it's about hitting every shot. That makes it good. Hitting every other shot doesn't make Cassie good. The burst potential, whereas that's harder on console, which makes the game different, which appeals to people. So I think it's good.
I guess for me, another just interesting point. Inside your draft, we could take a look into it. Is there any common themes you guys see? You like getting your tanks early? Do you like prioritizing for a certain player? Do you like to maybe see if you can get? Is it all just dependent? Because I know a lot of drafts sometimes guys who have gaps on being able to play, Bomb Kings or other blaster types, they have to get prioritized so that they get on a champion that makes them feel comfortable. What's that situation for you guys?
I think it's map dependent for us.
Yeah, map dependent, and tanks, as everyone knows, are very, very strong right now. They're either all banned or all picked in the first 4 picks. And then after that, we have our comfort pick. I love playing Lian, Bomb King, and a bit of Canessa on the big maps. So we do look for that early because Bomb King, especially at LAN, is really strong. Yeah. And Lian's like ability, Death and Taxes with a 90% core rise, makes it insane. And we, Ruckus is great, Terminus is great. And we all have like our comfort picks. Like we love Storm Avatar, our healer on Damba. So a lot of teams would high pick a Genos or like a Ceres.
Right.
But
we don't care.
We've got
our last pick Damba, which is great for us because it gives us a tank advantage at the start of the draft.
Yeah. So. Very cool. Well, we wish you guys the best of luck. We're excited. The match is starting very soon. So absolutely best wishes in the tournament. We look forward to seeing you guys again.
Much. Great. Awesome.
Great words from the Flashpoint squad. Prosper Logic, you saw him in there. Good-looking lad, and also a very confident, feeling humble, and I think just jovial kind of guy.
The spirits are always high with Flashpoint, is the one thing that I've noticed. Regardless of where they are, regardless of how they're performing, whether they've already been knocked out of the bracket, they are relatively, as you said, jovial. They're always in good spirits. They're always looking to take the positives from every situation, and that's important as we go through into a LAN where, Europe just hasn't really succeeded that much so far in the console scene. We're expecting them to be able to maintain high spirits, maintain high morale in a LAN environment, and that is important. There's only one member that has no LAN experience so far on that squad, and that is the sub, the Legacy.
And let's talk about experience in terms of OB70. We saw him have a little hesitations. Prosper Logic says, we're going to be going with this draft as it develops. We don't know what's going to be good. He also mentioned the Cassie can't really be as effective, though we saw Narc pull that off. We saw Skeppy pull that off, so maybe going against his initial assumptions. How do you think that draft is going to keep developing for them? Do you think we've seen the extent of it? Drogo's Tower good? Do you think it will develop even more as the set continues?
I realistically think that within the scope that you have of a best of 5, because you're shifting map style so frequently, it's very difficult for you to kind of, sure you can progress, sure you can develop, but you're never going to establish like, oh, this is the top pick, because it's absolutely dependent on terrain more than anything else. It's very situational. But I definitely do think that we're going to establish more highly prioritized picks, and we end up in this metagame of, okay, well, they pick this, what beats it? Like the old Masters LAN last year on PC of what beats the Bomb King.
Right. That was the game. It should be a board game. What beats Bomb King?
It's the mini game. Like a lot of games have mini games. Most commonly role-playing games, story-driven games, but now it's just like, all right, Paladins, what beats the Bomb King? The draft is a mini game. It's a lot of technical information. It's a lot of thought process that goes in. Both these teams here with subs, but without a coach as well. So nobody behind the scenes kind of guiding them through that process. They've got to act on their whole team's experience and prowess to be able to determine what is best in that situation.
notably Europeans so good at finding flexibility within the draft, especially at high levels of play. One of the big things they mentioned, and you had brought up earlier, Fox, is actually the idea around the Damba. They said that they don't need to first pick healers, and they could provide an extra tank prioritization because the Damba is something that Storm Avatar loves and is not really cared for on console.
And that is something which is so critical here. If we look through the previous drafts from the last set on Xbox with Vex versus Fable, throughout the duration, I think there was a support that was at least in the second phase of picks for everybody. It was the Genos being prioritized in the second or that first phase of picks. And being able to go, okay, as I said on the interview, we're going to get that tank advantage early. Very, very important because frontlines often dictate the way which the game is built around, right? Like you take,
absolutely.
You go, okay, we're going to stack point, and we'll play maybe more as a sort of dive comp or a team fight comp around that, or we're going to be more spread out. We want to be able to divide and conquer. So I think that they do have a bit of an edge there. The problem is, I always want to ask the question of like, and we do this with console a lot of, does it matter, right?
Yeah.
Is that flexibility a help or a hindrance? Is it better to play something that nobody's expecting, or is it better to play what you know just excellently?
I mean, you know, I often say that a bad plan executed well is better than a good plan executed poorly. And so I think that even if Maldamba may not be the top tier pick for this meta, maybe a Genos with the 3 DPS is making more of an impact in games. The fact that they're able to play the Damba at such a high level with such confidence, I think, is going to allow them a lot of opportunities that a lot of other teams aren't going to be able to tap into, so to speak. That well is not available to all who cross it. And I think this, with Storm Avatar really prioritizing that at this level, it's going to be kind of my key point. Where does that start to tilt things in the favor of Flashpoint?
And there are a lot of different things that you could do with different supports as well, right? If you're drafting the Ceres, you want to be looking for maybe some ultimates, or some burn potential that synergizes well with that. You want to capitalize off the back of a convergence. If you're running Genos, you might look for a composition that has crowd control to set up through time and space, or just play around distance, around walls. But if you're running the Maldamba, you just break apart a point fight with your fear, potentially. Dread Serpent is a disruption tool. It doesn't necessarily have to be the keystone which you build your composition around. It's just kind of universally good.
Very close to getting into the draft here, as the champions will be selected soon. Of course, the map's getting banned out as well. We'll find out where we're playing all in just a little bit here. Semi-final number 2 on the way. This will actually be the set that concludes today's action for the Paladins console wars. And heading into tomorrow, we've already got our first competitor that is punched their ticket there. It is Fable, who have beaten Vexed Gaming in a best of 5, went all the way down to 5 games, went down to 2-2, and then they were able to get those last couple of points and secure that spot for North America. Will the Europeans punch a spot here on the side of Flashpoint, or will Onslaught make it an all-in-a draft heading into the last set tomorrow?
So, initially, looking at the map drafts here, Onslaught have taken away the Fish Market. Frog Isle banned out for Flashpoint with Brightmarsh selected as first.
Interesting.
Seeing a Frog Isle ban, looking at some stats I have from just the qualifying phase right here, Frog Isle banned out sort of frequently for Europe, or North America actually, less frequently for Europe. I think this is more potentially looking to diversify the map pool. This is one thing which we've talked about a lot with consoles, how they frequently play, you know, it's Frog Isle, it's Brightmarsh, it's Jag Falls, it's Serpent Beach. They play the standard maps. Push people to out of their comfort zone, maybe bring in a timber mill here, maybe go for something a little bit weird, a little bit wacky. You might find that you have an advantage in that situation.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I think if you go into this route with Flashpoint, it's very smart what you see. They banned the Genos out, and now they have the advantage healing-wise. Unless Onslaught want to take the Damba, Flashpoint kind of saying, hey, are you willing? Are you able? Are you confident enough? Because we'll take it. I mean, if they ban a Ceres here, that would be actually wild, because then it's forcing them Damba or Ying, and I think Onslaught would probably take the Damba in that situation.
I would not be surprised, considering that North America as well, it's not that they can't play the Damba, they just don't like the Damba too much.
Right.
They don't pick it because they consider other things higher priority, but on this Brightmarsh map, Khan is actually banned out, so we haven't seen this champion at all in play so far for console, but we're now seeing Flashpoint ban them, and I'm wondering if they're beginning to over-egg the pudding here a little bit. Is there really a Khan strat for this map that's so devastating?
I don't know, Vox. I mean, I think they legitimately said to us in the interview that they weren't even sure if Khan was a great pick right now. They weren't sure. They're really, I think, flying by the seat of their pants.
They're going, okay, it's a map with an environmental hazard. We've got to get rid of Khan, because otherwise Khan's going to get rid of at least one of us, and that's a problem.
And it also serves as that kind of ban where, you know, it's not a bad pick. It's not a great pick. It's just a pick that you ban out and then still leave some available things like a Makoa on the board for you, like a Ruckus on the board for you, instead of banning them out and giving 1 or 2 to Onslaught.
And just to argue a little bit in favor of Flashpoint with this ban here, I've got to say that on a map like Bright Marsh, where you've got this super compact space, Khan's Battle Shout is actually a very
much
valuable,
better. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. If everybody's in the same area, especially if you're going to apply a damage amp and CC immunity for, I think, 4 seconds, that could be critical in some of these team fights.
I mean, Buck, Makoa, Ruckus taken here. That is a very
dangerous.
Dangerous thing, and if Flashpoint aren't careful, this is going to be like an Onslaught game mode where it's just kill after kill after kill.
I don't know, man. I think we're going all the way through to a farming simulator at this point.
Wow.
But we'll have to see if Flashpoint can respond with something. They've got the Xin who can put in some backline disruption here. They've got the Lian as well, and they did talk about this, that a lot of teams underestimate the value of Death and Taxes early, getting that 90% anti-heal online. Certainly super valuable into a Buck that's probably going to be running bulk up through what we've seen so far.
Yes, I think the Buck matchup is the big thing for me that tilts it in her favor, because that damage reduction is already enough. Having the bulk up be there, and you know, maybe anticipating that, taking the Series away, knowing Onslaught don't want to play the Damba, would go into some type of strat that we've seen North America pull off in G2 esports side of things at a high level on PC. The Grover here, Efflorescence you can expect, and then a Drogo to round it out.
And this is an interesting draft from Onslaught. We'll see if these are locked in as the Grover does join the realm. And overall, it's interesting, right? Grover provides some very decent healing for those frontliners on the objective. Maybe if Drogo is playing backline as well, keeps them topped up, and Buck has their own source of self-sustain. Fernando picked up by Flashpoint to round out this draft, so it's double frontline versus double frontline here. But my question is, if Flashpoint can drive a wedge in between this Grover and maybe the Drogos and isolate the backline, that's going to be a very easy pick to take out of the sky.
Absolutely. Leon, a great counter to not only the Buck, but the Drogo, so I think a lot is hinging on her. If you have a guy who's piloting, like Hated on Xbox, on a Fernando, that's doing just as well as Wonderful did and getting top damage, that's going to be a big conversation. Brand, Death and Taxes. Oh boy, guillotines in, maybe. We have a lot to expect and a lot to get started with, so let's send it to the casters here, getting ready for our first game of set number 2 here.
Thanks, Rende. We are ready for game number 1 of our second semifinal. My name is Latigris here with Gormizer, and I'm stoked. Also, did all of the dudes like go to the barber or something? Because you see Richie all cut on the side. I see some nice fresh tapes.
Fresh shave.
I like it. I like it.
Get ready for LAN. You're going to be on camera a lot.
But remember, everybody, that you want to decide who you think is going to win this game, Onslaught or Flashpoint. Who do you think, Gore?
I mean, honestly, this one's a toss-up. I noticed both teams really kind of flouting, I want to say, the flexibility of their support players, being most notable overall, the Grover coming through, which is something that I feel like is very North American for Onslaught to be able to pick it up. And so the question really does come down to whether or not Flashpoint know how to deal with that. That's always been the problem. We've seen it relatively recently on the PC side of things, is where do you go? How do you stop his healing from being as explosive?
Ooh, and already getting started nice and quick. You saw that taking a lot of damage right off the bat. It's going to be Neil on the Grover. And now there's been a little bit of time for Onslaught to make their changes and adapt to having to adjust the roster a bit. But it's 38% for Onslaught, and that's actually your first blood going over to Neil.
Going to fall down almost immediately. Good Lad going to be able to pick that one up. And this is actually the best point to start and press them out. And you can see the shots coming through. Prosper Logic, very notable that Flashpoint really typically 3-0. They're used to winning these. They're actually used to being able to kind of come in and fight back control whenever they do lose it. So being able to kind of take this approach, Atomic Boom finding Good Lad does stall that for a little bit, but they have control of the point.
60% onto the objective for Flashpoint, but they did lose one and gonna have to wait for that to respawn. But they've been pretty dominating within each of their phases, but Richie ends up getting eliminated by Legacy.
These rockets are just on point. Atomic Boom going to be able to get the kill onto Op B right there, and that actually opens up so much. Terminus, such a big factor in terms of fighting, but not going to do much. Convergence pulls him in.
Lots of early ultimates, and good one from Storm Avatar. Onslaught, 4 of them taken right off of the table, and that's Flashpoint with your first point of the game.
It was exactly the ult they needed. Kind of wishy-washy as to whether or not they had control until Convergence pulls 4 of them, until they get all of those kills. and because of that, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable starting up their push. Definitely rolling and feeling a lot better. You can see where Onslaught's slowly getting picked apart.
And just great convergence. I do say that there was a flash, and then the point was achieved, and Flashpoint taking the lead. And also worth noting, it's mentioned in the interviews and everything, Swiper not going to be here. And there's always going to be some worry when you have to make those roster switch-ups and how you're going to adapt with the rest of your team.
And I think it's actually really great that we get to see the camera here. You can see they seem relatively comfortable with each other, happy to have everyone there that is there. And that's kind of always the question. They said Swiper has always been kind of the one that was known as the team. It was always Swiper's team. It was always, what is Swiper going to do? Is he the one playing it? But not having him there, and Legacy notably a very big player in Europe and has done a lot in the past to prove himself, pretty good to be able to fill those shoes even though they're big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I guess they say Swiper no swiping, but Swiper no flying either in this case, unfortunately. And I love the moment during the draft, actually, when Prosper Logic, there's a smile, and say, oh, look at that smile, he's so happy. And then you see the Khan ban actually get locked in. You think, wait a minute.
Sitting there, maybe thinking of things that they thought was going to happen. I think Fable actually mentioned in their post-game interview that these two have been scrimming each other, so knowing that they know their opponent a little bit better because of that and getting that cross-region experience, maybe expecting a little bit more out of Khan than really was actually going to get played.
Yeah, and it is a good point, actually, when you look at Europe, and it's not as populated when it comes to the console scene, so you're having those dominating moments, but you're wanting to make sure that you're actually getting that practice and you need to stand up against an A, and there you go. That was just a beautiful convergence to go ahead and actually just seal the deal on what Flashpoint was already rolling with.
And just being able to showcase why Saris is really big here. And one of the things that is really strong about her is going to be easier to hit your heal overall, going to be able to kind of trace that down and make sure you keep the main targets you need to, specifically Terminus here, locked up and full on health. But once you get that convergence and it charges fast, it will be game-changing for you.
And there's only so many windows that a team can pop in when they're attempting to get to the capture. So recognizing that with your convergence that, hey, there's 3 grouped up around this specific passageway. Let me go ahead and throw this out and finish off all the damage that was already being achieved. But here's some more ultimates. A nice hook in, and that's 3 kills in favor of Flashpoint once more.
Impressively keeping their Terminus alive. Hated on Xbox being the last one to go down right there. Makoa notably being picked up here, but you've always seen him maybe first ban, first pick when you look at some other areas. Console Terminus is the monster, not B being the one piloting that, immediately getting in their face, looking ready to fight.
This payload is already so close, and there's another hook from Xbox. The Legacy manages to charge on out of it. Here's a Dragon Punch attempting to find somebody, but the Immortal popped by Legacy. Perfect timing indeed. Hexafire activated on the opposite end, but it's only one that has fallen so far.
Immediately hit the Fireball after that as well, getting low himself, but they're fighting so well. The heals are so good. No one on Flashpoint is dying. Finally, Legacy gonna get taken out, but they're too busy trying to get the kills. The payload just rolls on in.
Aided on Xbox was kind of hopping back and back and back, and there you see on your screen Prosper Logic just loving how clean that play was.
And this is another point. I mean, these guys are used to winning when it comes down to it. They know that they are a good team. They typically come in their weeks and just 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. And so they're confident. Even when they're not having all 5 members, they're confident in their abilities. And you can kind of see, I think, the same projection on the faces here of Onslaught. They're not feeling as confident. I mean, that was not a clean round. This time, though, they do have the comeback mechanic, which makes it a little bit easier. We've seen that be a big role, but definitely Flashpoint looking a little bit more dominant right now.
Complete disorientation on the side of Onslaught in those final moments. And we've seen Hated on Xbox on the Makoa a lot of times whenever it does make it through the bans. And he had some good hooks, but if you don't have the follow-up or the rest of the team is just planning to encroach upon you anyway, then that eliminates a lot of the value.
Saw some Fan the Flames, mainly some health being picked up for Good Lad. Going to be able to live a little bit longer with his loadout. Being able to run through already. It's looking good. 2 down, though, on the side of Flashpoint. Is OpB going to be able to pick up 1 in return, but it's the healer.
Oh, boy. Tried to go for another one with the convergence, but instead Flashpoint ended up losing a couple. Still 24% on the objective and maintaining that level of control.
Wow.
You eliminate Atomic Boom.
Just using his cooldowns perfectly. Good Lad barely comes out of that one. I mean, he was one hit so much of that fight, but finally going to be able to come through. But the big thing is Onslaught are on the point. They have the comeback mechanic. They're already at 70%, and Flashpoint don't seem to have a way in.
Yeah, Richie Getting zoned just a little bit, but still managing to keep himself alive. A nice face-off against Good Lad, flank on flank, but eventually Good Lad ends up getting that one in his favor. Another hook from Xbox actually results in the kill.
Gets rid of Good Lad, but ultimately Onslaught have been pushed away. If they can get rid of Comedy right here, the shield's not lasting long. That's going to open it up a lot more, but 89 comeback mechanic, you have to be fighting on the point, otherwise you're not going to be able to fight back.
Rotation made back around by only B. He's standing strong, finally eliminated, uses the reanimate to come back into the fight, awaiting the rest of the team. What a dragon punch! As take 2 ICU, you out of here, buddy.
We always talk about Terminus ult as how you don't want to die within the next 10 seconds. You don't want to die within the next 1 second. He was not there for a while. Hexafire coming down. Prosper Logic low, but there's the Immortal keeping him alive and going. Comedy getting low, but the heals are coming through.
Luckily able to clean up on that atomic boom, and here's actually his fight. Results in the kill onto OG Comedy. It's a 2-for-1 right now. Onslaught continuing to go ahead, has to wait a bit before they have this push.
Just looking to try and push him back. Very back and forth, definitely in control of the fight. And Grover notably the one maybe making a bigger difference here. QD Neil, when he dies early on, it kind of gives Onslaught this weird portions to fight. They don't know where exactly they want to position themselves. They don't know how they need to go about it. And right now, Whirlwind coming through, keeping everyone alive. Op B pretty much dead in the water, surrounded by sharks.
It's kind of just a bit of stagnation currently, some trades back and forth, but you also notice Drogos and Leon both working into that record, but a double kill for Good Lad before he eventually falls.
Minute and a half left. The heals from Storm Avatar still trying to keep Prosper Logic alive, notably probably one of the bigger players to keep this team kind of rolling, or in this case, just trying to stop Onslaught from moving forward. With the way things are shaking out, it's becoming a little bit more difficult for him specifically to find the right positioning, stay alive, and Ice Enlightenment coming through, but gets body blocked.
Yeah, didn't quite work out exactly how he wanted to, and all the way down to 80 HP in that moment. Luckily, able to find some safety, healed back up. 1 minute to go on this push, and Onslaught once again starting to regain a little bit of momentum, but there's only one ultimate available to them, and that is the type of ultimate that really depends upon Richie's execution.
And honestly, it really depends on their momentum right now. Richie not in a good spot, whether or not he wanted to pop that ult. Buck Wild can push you forward, maybe even push it in, but they're sitting at 50%. Onslaught don't have enough momentum to really ride this in. 30 seconds left, which gives them enough time to start a push, but they're going to have to ride a lot in overtime. And so far, Flashpoint have just been keeping them pushed away.
And they for sure recognize that too. If you look at their positioning, where they're coming from, they wanted to try and get eyes to see exactly where Flashpoint was rotating from directionally, but in the end, you got 20 seconds to go. You're only about 45% of the way, and you don't want to use too many resources for something that's not a guarantee. There's actually a Dragon Punch trying to find a target. 2 falls for Flashpoint.
Looking to be able to get rid of 3 now. Actually, maybe making it 4 as they just get a full-on team wipe. Going to be able to go into overtime. Flashpoint will respawn, although it will be a very close call. They're going to have to pretty much win this fight literally right out of the gate, as they have maybe a few seconds to group up, maybe a few seconds to play with, but they have to cut it close. They don't have Convergence, they don't have Enlightenment, but they do have a few ults to play around.
Luckily, it wasn't too staggered. They're all up currently, and Convergence isn't that far from coming back online. Nice shell spin from here on Xbox to get right into the middle of the action, but they lose 1, they lose 2, and this overtime's going to get quicker and quicker as time goes on, and there is your defense.
And again, just perfect. Death and Tax is coming down for the Leon. Once she respawns, that Whirlwind does nothing in terms of healing. It was popped, and Ruckus was still dying left and right, being able to make sure to keep them locked down. As long as they continue to have plays like that, they'll be golden. But if you have ults like that on the side of Terminus, at least, you're not going to last long.
Once more I rise.
He didn't even get to finish Rise. Like, he was in the middle, like at that last tail E where he holds it for a little bit and then he's dead again.
Started to kick his way through the door, but then it just got smacked closed right in his face.
Not a comfortable. That kind of explains, you know, you see he has like a little bit of a flat nose. Terminus maybe used to that as he gets locked down. A pretty interesting build, and mainly looking at the fact that Hulking Monstrosity isn't as maxed out as it normally is, I want to say, on other builds, but being able to receive more healing, the we can rebuild him is what's keeping Ob alive, at least with Saris, except in the instances when Saris gets taken care of. So once you get rid of the healer, he is an easy target.
Easy rotation from the Flashpoint frontliners, but still also attempting to lock onto certain targets. Onslaught deciding to come from the high ground initially, hit it on Xbox with a double kill, pursuing some more onto the Nando, and Richie gets the last hit onto Legacy.
But right now, you can look at it, 63%. Flashpoint are standing on the point as As it stands up, B just forgoes his team, forgets about him, and stands on there. 72% picked up. Might be able to keep them in this because comeback mechanics there for Onslaught. They normally would just be able to cap this, but because he held it so long, Flashpoint are still in contention.
That 72% is something you have to worry about, though, once Flashpoint do come back into the fray. A couple ultimates used, but they still have the Reanimate and the Immortal with that good stand potential, but there's the Immortal right then from Nando. Legacy keeping himself on this objective.
Looking to break in. Terminus going to be able to use the Reanimate right here. Will he be able to find anything off it other than just his life? He's going to come back. A nice pluck coming through, but he's ready to swing and try to take out Makoa himself.
Just enough HP to keep himself alive. Hated on Xbox, rotating around. Atomic Boom gets a kill onto Legacy, followed up with a double kill by Richie, and that is 4 off the table for Flashpoint. And Leon, I love you, baby, but you're not enough to stand on your own.
Prosper Logic, I think immediately recognizing that, looks like he's about to run in and then immediately flips around. Still ends up going down, though, as Onslaught find the kill, chase him down, and eliminate him. And most notably, for a team that has been picking up newer members and being able to come into this with someone that they hadn't qualified with overall and play this well, Onslaught definitely look like they're feeling very comfortable.
Nice hook, but below out, baby, and there you go. Keep yourself. That's the thing about Xin. Every time you try to lock out him, unless he's already blown his cooldowns, you know you're not really going to get the kill there. More of a just disorientation strategy. But 2 down on the side of Flashpoint. There's Neil. Gets a good chunk of the HP on Xbox, but Atomic Boom throws back.
Needed a little bit more follow-up overall. Storm Avatar going down. That's 4 dead, about to be 5 if Legacy goes down right here. And Onslaught, if they can push this in, they'll be tying up the game, fighting on even footing one more time. But I mean, a 9 streak, 11 streak, 7 and 8. They are very confident in their play right now. They're riding the momentum in, and it kind of feels worse for Flashpoint. How do they fight back into this?
Yeah, this is a much better position Onslaught is in compared to the last time they were at a minute 30, and now getting super aggressive on the side of Flashpoint because they don't want this to get pushed through. Hated on Xbox with the Ancient Rage. There's a nice smack, getting in the face of Flashpoint, missing the hook, but still back in his normal form. And there's a convergence as well, getting pulled with the spite onto Richie.
Good Lad going to be able to get 1 kill. Op-B is low. Whirlwind came out to top off every member of Onslaught, and the ones that are still alive are doing work. Hated on Xbox going to be able to get 2 more as they're looking to push this one in. All they have to do is get rid of Good Lad, and they should be able to start rolling it a little bit further. Legacy not going to live long.
Once again, Prosper Logic, you're the only one here, and that HP is just dwindling down and down and down. Another rocket to the face should be enough. Actually got a double kill with the ultimate. Was mostly using it for that aspect, but to keep alive. There's 40 seconds to spare.
I mean, literally respawning, dropping, fighting, doing whatever they can, but dying. Good Lad finally going to be able to pick some up. A nice spike going to be able to come through. Can he follow up with the kill? They're going to be able to get rid of Cutie Neil, OG Comedy, but Richie does find the return. They're still fighting in this.
It's 2 for 2, and Flashpoint have finally managed to push anyone that is alive on the side of Onslaught past that barrier, past that small room that is on the right side if you're facing from the spawn area, and that's a big key aspect when you're waning down in those final moments.
And this area much easier to hold than when you are literally jumping out of your base hoping to stop the payload. There's going to be the Dragon's Fury, though, coming through, looking for somebody. Will it be able to find anyone that's a high target? Actually finds no one. The tree stops him.
Instead, just hops right onto the high ground, throws out that spit. Flashpoint, they're still holding strong with this defense, though, but Atomic Boom is right behind them. Another one from Prosper Logic, but not going to connect effectively. Richie picks up that kill, and that's 4 down for Onslaught. I don't know, it's tough stuff.
We were talking about Buckwild earlier, and had he had his team, that would have been a perfect scenario. Everyone within maybe 2 shotgun shots away, where all you need is maybe a fast-firing shotgun to get rid of 2, 3 on your own. But with the rest of the team falling down, not going to be able to hold that. You will see Flashpoint not get that extra point just because they do not, or you can't win off a defense when it comes down to it. So they do still have to fight this. Half a comeback mechanic on the side of Onslaught might make this a little bit easier, but it's been getting shakier and shakier. The more they let Flashpoint fight them on the point, the less they have an iron grip on it.
And Onslaught, all of the points they've acquired so far were with that comeback mechanic enabled. You look at Flashpoint, I think in both cases they got to 70-something% at least. So with the odds not completely evened out as far as capture speed, but somewhat a little in the favor to Onslaught as opposed to a lot, could make the difference here in attempting to close.
It also depends, how does Flashpoint handle this rotation so far. We've seen Onslaught get into their backline easily. There's going to be the Hexafire actually right on the point, trying to do whatever it can. That's just eating a shield right now, and Comedy goes down.
Lad picking that one up. Prosper Logic with some good follow-up, but they lose their support on the side of Flashpoint. So even though it's a 1-for-3 trade, gotta still keep that sustain up as much as possible. Atomic Boom down to 440 HP and has to back off.
Forced away. Now Prosper Logic can get aggressive. They have to decide who is going to be stuck standing back. And you actually see, I want to say, a little hesitation, not wanting to get too aggressive. Flashpoint recognized they can't hold as far forward as they really want to. 75% though, they're going to be comfortable holding right here on the point. There's going to be the punch, but it's actually going to miss.
Oh, another punch. He wants to find someone, but doesn't. And that is going to be huge for Flashpoint. 87% onto the objective. Who's going to get the next kills within the succession? Not going to be Fernando going down because of that Immortal. And Atomic Boom is actually rotating around to the back line. One last hit, they're down, but not yet.
Rocket's so good so far, but Good Lad's still alive, going to be able to get one. Prosper Logic, Legacy, Op B, all dead, but with that reanimate, he's still standing on the point, 99%, and it's up to Richie to try and find these kills.
Onslaught have to pour all their resources to keep this 99% from turning to 100, and a team wipe is one way to go ahead and do that. So Flashpoint, very narrow window.
And beautifully spread out, to the point where just now Terminus is going to respawn and Zen right after that. They don't have all 5. Flashpoint need to get in here if they want to try and stop this, at least to win it here. 99% is still not 100, but they're finally back on it. Op B, notably the one fighting Convergence, pulling some in, but they just need a few more kills.
Terminus still taking a lot of damage, though, in the meantime. Luckily getting this overtime to continue. It's a 1-for-2 trade. Overtime sets on down, and that's going to be a Flashpoint victory, using those last few seconds very effectively.
Standing up, hand on his heads, feeling pretty comfortable. Maybe a little bit closer than they thought it was going to be. Definitely in that last fight, kind of going back and forth. But I think they're feeling a little bit more confident in their ability. The smile's coming out. These guys are just happy to be playing, happy to be here. And you can kind of see, again, trying to figure out what went wrong, what do we need to change there for Onslaught.
And it makes the change in cameras that much more of a stark difference, though, because you go over to Flashpoint, they're standing up, smiling, tongues out and everything, and then Onslaught, it's hard. You just came off of that game where not only did you lose, but it was a grueling fight, too.
And it's one of those matches that is kind of similar to what we actually had seen in the first set, where there's a certain point where if you lose like the first game and it's a relatively quick game, you can just kind of shrug that off going to game number 2. You're only down 1. It's not the end of the world. The longer those matches go, the more it really hurts when you lose them. And it kind of dejects you and might get you out. And when you're swapping from map to map to map, that's really bad mentality to be in.
Well, don't forget, everybody, to vote for your MVP of the game, but we're going to send it over to the desk to break it down.
Incredible stuff there from Good Lad, Prosper Logic, and the rest. It's a victory for Flashpoint, and in convincing fashion in Bright Marsh Game 1, they will take the lead over Onslaught and Vox. I mean, I thought that Flashpoint looked good from the get-go, and that was not what I expected, considering they were playing against an early game kind of Efflorescence Grover.
Absolutely. They looked better than I expected, I think, from the get-go. But I think part of that is due to the fact that, as they mentioned in their interview, you buy into Death and Taxes Leon, you shut down the healing, and I mean, there wasn't really much in the way from the composition on this side of Onslaught that could really block that healing. You've got a Makoa shield, and that's kind of it. And that's not exactly the most tankiest shield in the round, right? That's not a Fernando Aegis that's just sitting there for the entire duration. It's not a Nara Wall, so
yeah,
what do you do with that?
It was so interesting, too, the way the draft went, and I kind of really loved it. They kind of flew by the seat of their pants. I said that because you could tell these guys play on a lot of emotion. They play on a lot of, just feeling whether this is the right choice or not. It's not necessarily this super calculated play, but this one move was they took the Ceres when the Damba was open, and they said, you're either going to Damba, which is more difficult, we don't think you're going to want it, or you're going to Grover. Now, what do we have to deal with that? Well, we have the Leon. She's not as good as diving into the backline, which you would have to do to get the Ceres off.
Exactly.
And I think Prosper Logic, with that Death and Taxes Leon, really set himself to succeed, and he was the MVP for us this game.
Was picked up quite a deal throughout a lot of the games, but hit some amazing enlightenments right there. Beautiful double kill coming out from him on this initial push where Flashpoint picked up a 2-0 primarily because nobody could contest the card. Well, I think nobody chose to, really. And
yep.
They would pull off some incredible, again, just the enlightenments coming through, the executions that they're able to obtain, even if it ends up being a trade in the end. Always removing critical members off the battlefield. You're taking down the Drogos. You're taking away the Buck as well. And the Buck, certainly from Onslaught, which was played, if I'm not mistaken, by Richie throughout that game, was a real thorn in the side of Flashpoint.
It was. I mean, Richie showed that he was definitely able to ball with the best of them, and it was something that they had to figure out how to deal with. You know, a couple of shots going the other way, and Richie maybe takes control of that last fight, and they actually did. They pushed them away, but I think the comeback mechanic played a big factor into this. Once you even had a second chance for Flashpoint to come back in, just one more opportunity, they took it with ease, and they ended up winning the game off of that when the full comeback mechanic of being down 2 points was not available to Onslaught. And so how much will that play into next map as Serpent Beach is selected for this PS4 finals, best of 5, Flashpoint in the lead with game 1.
Well, I can tell you, Evan, I really don't expect to see a Khan ban coming out here again. I think
Really?
at this point, yeah, honestly, with how much of a thorn in the side Buck was from Onslaught, I expect Flashpoint to kind of go, all right, we actually just want to deal with this, instead of maybe going for something which is more questionable. They're already up one game. They've got the wiggle room to say, you know what? If Khan turns out to be a problem and we lose the game because of it, all right, we'll ban them in the future. But they've already got one in the bag.
Yeah, I like that call because, you know, you have a chance to experiment to see it. Now you're up 1-0. Hey, but even Fnatic knows being up 1-0 doesn't secure you victory. I'm sure they're still pained about that one.
Ooh, too soon.
As is Europe. Everyone in Europe gets so upset when they lose. You guys are too used to winning everything.
Yeah, we kind of are, and honestly, I'm starting to feel like the odd one out here. You know, on the desk, the only European around, as Europe is sort of looking downhill. I'm banking on Flashpoint to be able to take this one because I need some representation up in here, but Flashpoint started off with the Drogo's ban. Turns out that was actually one of the things which they really didn't enjoy playing into last game, and Atomic Boom certainly put in some work with it.
Missed a few crucial Dragon Punches, but still worked around it enough to be an impact, and so they ban it. And they ban the con again, and, you know, there's that idea that you said, which you have some wiggle room to play against it, but you also say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you take the buck, or if we take the buck, the only thing that really shut that down was the Leon, so I think they're either going to try to get the Leon with the buck here, or they'll prioritize the tank and let the buck fall where it may. At this point, Buck's banned out from Onslaught.
I feel a little bit like the Khan at this point. The Khan ban is that kind of throwing salt over your shoulder. It's like, I don't see any alligators.
Yeah.
Because I'm throwing salt on my shoulder. Do you see any alligators? No, it's working. It's
I
a
know.
kind of confirmation bias, right?
Absolutely.
Flashpoint highly prioritizing the Xin here. I'm wondering if they might even go in for the Damba on this game, right? I think this is really a battle of supports at this point. Onslaught, they had to run with something different. They ran with the Grover last time around. Flashpoint indicating they want to play this kind of mobile flanker. It means they'll either need a Torvald or they need a Damba who can heal them from range to make them kind of effective at this point.
And as you mentioned, Damba, really the preference for Storm Avatar. Inara taken here. Flashpoint mentioned to us that tanks are really taken up in the first 2, 3, 4 spots. Notably, the Bomb King let out of his cage, so to speak, so His Majesty will join the side of Onslaught for now.
If I am not mistaken, this is the first game on land so far for console that Bomb King has not been banned in, so we're going to see the King in the realm on land, which is a scary enough kind of setting all in all, but for the first time today as well, we'll see if those bans are entirely justified or if Flashpoint might be regretting taking away Khan instead of His Majesty.
And I think if you do take away the con, you know, make sure that you are positioning yourself to have an answer for this Inara, and the Terminus has shown itself to be just that. So effective, and the second lives that he's been granting his teammates, the second opportunities, and with the Saris, seeing a lot of Flashpoint just drafting based on what's been working.
It worked last game.
That's right.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We'll see how Onslaught respond. I mean, again, they're forced into a different support composition here, and we have seen a Grover work on this map before. Notably, I think it's been G2 Esports on the PC side of things. It's been favorable to run it. I've seen a few more amateur European teams run it as well, but I'm more inclined to say that they might leave that as a last pick now and draft some earlier damage in the front line here as they have the opportunity to.
And if you're looking at, okay, say you move on, and this is Fable. Let's look at tomorrow. If you leave Ruckus on the board at this point, you know Wonderful is snatching that up. This is something you have to play against. This is something you either have to play with or play against. And in his hands, it is so deadly. Now, he's been a lot on the Inara here, but the Makoa also available, a threat. Has this been showing the value that you would think would surpass a Ruckus here?
I think that it does in combination with the Maeve. And the big thing about Ruckus, right, is that there is no way to break Cauterize. If they throw the Terminus and the Ruckus together, you've got to bank on Power Siphon as the only thing that can stop that Cauterize from being applied.
Yeah.
Which is pretty restrictive, and Ceres does have good healing throughput, but I don't know, combined with the anti-heal and the burst potential from Maeve, could be in a lot of danger. But I love the Cassie.
Yeah.
I love the Scout specifically to be able to counter at Midnight.
Yeah.
And of course, you just can't let Ruckus through. I mean, it's headshots for days.
And it's a last pick Ruckus. I mean, the value that they're able to get off of something like that is very high. The Maeve prioritized again because it does go through the power siphon. I think Grover here, as we mentioned, is something that they've gone to once, didn't work out, but they plan on making it work out in game number 2. The question, of course, is will they do it? They weren't able to complete that in game 1. Let's send it to the casters as they take us away and see if Onslaught can bounce back.
Well, I sure am stoked to see the Bomb King for the first time today.
It's one of those things, I mean, you take away the Drogos, which I think has been playing a much bigger role just today than we've seen pretty much in the last, I want to say even 3 phases of the PCS. But these guys made their blaster names on Bomb King in the first place, so Atomic Boom more than likely going to be the one on that. I expect a lot.
Remember, everybody, who do you think is going to win this game? Will it be Flashpoint rolling through for a 2-0 up until that point, or is Onslaught going to tie it up? What do you think?
Honestly, this is still looking like it's going to be Flashpoint's game. It's mainly the Grover that has me kind of on the fence. We've seen him be successful, but I feel like it's just not quite fitting in the way Onslaught want it to. It just hasn't quite clicked. And since this time they're the ones who banned Genos and Saris is taken on the other side, even being able to flex onto Grover, onto Pip like they had said in their interview might not be enough to save them if you do end up letting up something that's just going to ultimately cause anti-heal, like kinetics, more than likely on Good Lad's loadout.
That's the thing, the Grover play we've seen today, the Whirlwinds just haven't hit as hard as they've needed them to. But as far as on this map we go, you know, Ruckus can really succeed, but Maeve has a lot of mobility to attempt to get to some of that backline.
I really like seeing Atomic Boom. He's put 5 points into reinforced casing, just going to be able to stay up a lot more, not going to get taken down. Apparently everyone thinks that Flashpoint's going to be able to take it, but how good can this Bomb King do, as Comedy's going to be the one with first blood?
First blood indeed, following up on that damage from Atomic Boom, but it's a 1-for-1 trade. Then eventually OG Comedy takes a fall as well. So that 21% with the potential to get completely negated. The Good Lad taking a bit of damage. Luckily there's a Saris to back him up.
And I just love the positioning here from Flashpoint. They are literally surrounding the point. Op B jumps in to be with his team, and then they just push Onslaught out all at once. Kill one on the way out. Let the door hit him while he leaves. And with the way things are going, they're going to be able to kind of hold on to that Onslaught. Not having as much. Normally, Inara, the one that you need standing on the point, notably just Void.
Yeah, look at everybody just kind of clustered over on that side. It's like how vampires need to be invited in. If you revoke the invitation, sent out of the way, and I don't think they're going to get invited anytime soon, but luckily for them, OG Comedy making a rotation despite the 2 kills in favor of Flashpoint.
And this is where Inara can showcase her strength. She's really hard to kill when you have a healer, but unfortunately their healer is dead and gone. Cutie Neil not alive long enough to actually keep this Inara rolling, and that's kind of where the role, if they had a Saris, that would be a much different story, but she just doesn't fit as well.
Running the Yomi as opposed to Guillotine. You don't need the Guillotine when everybody else chunks down Inara, and you can just have that little last finishing touch. So Flashpoint getting point number 1, and it's time to roll through.
It's always the balance. Do you really need to kill tanks? Do you have to go Guillotine? Or can you go Yomi and just hope that when you do spite, you lock them down and your team just focuses on it? Flashpoint, with the communication they have, and of course all of the experience they have together at this point, they just say, lock them down, we'll shoot them when we need to.
Flashpoint already made it past one of the more difficult chokes on this map, and Onslaught with Richie attempting to take that high ground to his advantage. Neil as well, but nice into the face of a Good Lad.
Going to be able to at least get rid of some of the pressure. Cassie's been causing a lot of trouble for them, but Zin's still alive, still going to be causing some trouble, this time on Prosper Logic instead of Good Lad, as it was last game. So dancing around that, falling back, Flashpoint recognized that they do kind of need everybody if they want to push forward, and this is a very difficult push right around here just because so many teams have a much more defensive nature. Being able to just stand up on these balconies gives you so much vision.
At that little bridge area, the fact that the rooms on the side allow you to peek out, deal some damage, and then go back to safety, unless you have some way to go ahead and push your damage through there. But here's the Midnight. OG Comedy picks up the kill onto Legacy, and Richie looking for some follow-up. Nice hit to take out I Only Op B.
Looking to get aggressive, coming around. You can see Prosper Logic barely out of that. Might not be completely clean, but Richie does pull back, which I think is the big key right here. Notably, I think a player I've seen most successful on Leon, but being able to flex around a lot today and showcasing some really good Maeve. Prosper Logic, though, living through all of that, doesn't make a huge difference. Might be able to get some poke, but at least he's present for his team. Might be able to give them some intel as to how they need to approach the fight.
It's been a bit of time before the Spill has made any major push, but there's actually the convergence.
Oh,
no!
no!
There's a wall, buddy! can't break through that one. Richie picks up the kill onto Legacy, and now Flashpoint, they're one down. They're starting to push little inch here, little inch there, but the members of Onslaught are right on top of the objective.
With 30 seconds left, this looks exactly like what Onslaught need to be able to hold, especially picking up the kill there on the Good Lad, at least causing a lot of this pressure. No Zen, no Cassie to cause too much trouble. 4 members alive, and even with the damage being in favor of Flashpoint, it's just so difficult to try and break through here. It's really up to OpB. He has to stay alive through this to be able to stand on the point.
I think Onslaught, they're wanting Bumpkin to pop off a little more, maybe the future right now, if they can just hold this and then reserve everything that they can until the next round. But overtime has set on in. Nice hook from Box, but nonetheless, Legacy actually gets taken out. Good Lad picking one up for himself. Overtime still going strong.
Looking to get aggressive. Comedy going to be able to pick up Storm Avatar, though. That's a no healer here for Flashpoint. OpB trying to do his best, but there's just 4 members looking at him now. Atomic Boom going to be able to apply that pressure, and Good Lad, again, left by his lonesome, not going to be able to do too much as a lonely Cassie.
Yep, so Onslaught, they do end up actually getting that defense without having to use too many resources. And that was just a nice teamwork effort with Flashpoint all chunking down onto that priority target, and then Prosper Logic there with the ultimate to clean up.
Just wipe him out, and you can see even here, Grover, tons more healing when it comes down. 20,000 more healing. He's got that increase on the radius on Blossom, so he's making sure everyone's getting touched up. But the big thing is whether or not Flashpoint can deal with this. Last game, they had the Leon that helped with Death and Taxes, just shut down that healing pretty much immensely. Now they have kinetics, they start having some cauterizes, but they really are looking maybe a little bit more late game towards being able to shut down that healing from QD Neil. As it is, they do have to focus the Grover if they want to be able to take a fight in a little bit more of a convincing manner.
He's prepared himself to try to get farther reach on this map, but eventually the longer it goes, the easier it will be to shut down. But here's the King Bomb, nice into little wee corner. He won his little bungalow and actually turns around to the rest of the competition, but he himself has been chunked down and unable to connect.
Locked in the box, but still alive as it stands. The ult not going to be able to gain too much, but it did at least get him into the fight, depending on how this goes. Richie going to get ulted, turned around. This is going to be a flank versus flank. One more hit is all you need with that mobility. Maeve just being able to escape. One more hit is all you need, but you can't find it. Even with Yomi, you're going to have to take a couple slices.
69% on the objective for Onslaught, but Flashpoint, they're keeping this in it. Here's the whirlwind from the Grover. Manages to find the heal onto some, but Legacy pops off with the X-Fire, but gets eliminated by Hated on Xbox. Convergence from Storm Avatar, but is there going to be any follow-up?
They don't actually find any kills off of it. Even trying to flank around, they at least push Onslaught away, but they don't get the kills. They're just kind of stalling their fight. Ancient Rage going to be coming through as they fight on in. QD Neil going up into the air and still alive.
Only OpB, he wants to keep the fight going, uses a reanimate, rotates around, runs into a Maeve right in his face, and then from the opposite end gets hooked back by Xbox, resulting in a second kill in succession. Neil picking that one up, and that's 99% to 100 for Onslaught as they pull ahead on the charts.
Looking to try and maybe clean up some kills before stop this payload where it stands, but Atomic Boom going to be able to pop off, get at least one Good Lad going down immediately, though Prosper Logic going to be able to kind of pincer him between a Ruckus and a Zen. And now trying to hold this back. This is where Onslaught notably were successful last time. They were able to use a comeback mechanic, come through, grab a point, and then not push it very hard right after they grabbed it.
And Flashpoint, they used a lot of resources attempting to go ahead and take away that capture, but if you're going to use it at that point in time, giving yourself enough time to actually recharge everything. But Atomic Boom took down one of the heavy hitters on the side of Flashpoint. Midnight settling on in.
Maybe just
that
looking
vision and Prosper Logic just waiting.
For a little pick here and there. Maeve maybe wanting to get aggressive, but it's kind of difficult, I want to say, when you do try to fight into Flashpoint, as opposed to what we saw earlier where Richie was trying to maybe find a pick here, a pick there. As it is right now, they've been doing a great job on the side of Onslaught of getting rid of these front lines. Legacy and OpB have not really had health bars that match what you would expect out of these front lines, and now the King Bomb's going to be coming through, at least clearing some space, maybe finding a kill.
Looking for it, doesn't. He hits one actually, just not the two. Nice clutch hits onto Storm Avatar, taking out that sustain. Legacy picks one up though as well. It's a 2-for-2 trade. A minute to go on this push, and Good Lad right on the high ground.
Back and forth boxing right now. Good Lad looking for maybe the angle he needs to play. OG Comedy low, one shot, gonna be able to find that after the blast shot comes through. and up on the high ground, exactly where you want your caster to be. But you have to be aware, Bomb King and Maeve can both get up beside you, and if you're not paying attention, you could get caught out and killed before you even know what's happening.
But Flashpoint, they know exactly where Onslaught is right now, grouped, attempting to find their way back towards the objective. There's a bit over 30 seconds left, so definitely possible, but Flashpoint have spread themselves to all the corridors.
Now, 30 seconds left, they're going to be able to jump down. One kill on the Legacy opens up that payload a lot more, and now they're actually on the bridge, on the balcony. OG Comedy coming around in the backside, going to be able to throw that, but not finding a stun.
Great way of pulling Richie down to the low ground to get that kill, but Atomic Boom and Hated on Xbox both getting the kills. Spite attempted, but negated by Neil. And Flashpoint, not many people are there to go ahead and hold this defense.
Once again, stuck in a position where they just had to run straight out of their base to get into the fight. Op B going to be able to pick up 2, though, with the help of Legacy as they're looking to get shots. Doesn't even need the Hexafire to capstone it. They're going to be able to push them back just in time to make sure that they don't go into overtime for too long.
Legacy and I Only Op B doing a great job right there in those last moments to hold it, because it can get tricky. You lost a lot of your damage, and in the end, you just have to keep them off of the objective, and just the presence of those frontliners was enough to do it.
And if you're going to end up having 2 people left to defend, honestly don't think you could get much better than having a Terminus and a Ruckus come through. You have a pretty good chunk of damage, especially if Terminus can get into the fight, but then just letting Ruckus sit back and be your DPS for the moment, at least try and burn through. And at that point, Onslaught, they're sitting at about half health anyway, so all you really needed was that extra little push to be able to get things, being able to tie it up, once again going into this point on even footing. This is the question of whether Flashpoint have figured out what lost them that last point, and if they can hold on to it. Inara and Op B both immediately going to the point.
There's your immediate rotation, and it's actually a nice face-off for a moment's time, but Terminus backs off of it for the time being. 9 to 12%. Nice kill onto Hated on Xbox. And actually right there onto low ground using the Hexafire.
Looking very much, I want to say, kind of like Virtus Pro, where Onslaught, they go straight to the point, they know how to fight around the point, but they really need that one person to step forward to have that performance. Otherwise, it's right back to the base, going to be able to give Flashpoint pretty much everything they need. Sitting at 78%, looking to be rising up as they're going to pause. And when it comes down to it, Onslaught really do need to kind of refigure how to approach this fight, because that one just did not go their way.
Just a little pick here, a little pick there. Suddenly 3 or 4 members were down and out, and this opened up a wide opportunity for Flashpoint to capitalize, and that's why you saw Prosper Logic go as far as he did to attempt to break off any attempt to actually get to that capture, but we're going to be pausing for just a moment's time.
And this is a point in the game where it's actually very important, mainly for Flashpoint, with the way things were going. Sitting at, I think, 80% is where they hit right at the tail end before the pause came through. You are in round 3. You just stopped all momentum from Onslaught and actually kind of gave yourself a little bit with that defense, so you're feeling a little bit more confident. You win a fight, you get the point. This is where you feel a lot more confident in your ability to just push the payload in, try and ride it the entire way. There's going to be a lot of snags there. They've noticed that they hadn't been able to push that first round, but they've gotten, again, a little bit more of a feel for Onslaught.
And we've got a lot of head-to-head situations here where you've Terminus and Nara that they're both going to the objective, who's going to come out on top. You've got Zin and Maeve that they've been duking it out a couple times, and who's going to be the victor in that situation. And here, this was actually a great rotation from Atomic Boom following his ultimate usage, which resulted in that kill.
And just being able to go forward, I mean, both of these teams have players, Legacy and Atomic Boom, notably, who have always stood out when they play Bomb King. And Atomic Boom being able to pilot this doesn't look, honestly, as clean as his Drogos did in the last game. It's still looking crisp, though, in his ability to kind of get aggressive. And both of these players have been making huge strides and waves for their teams when they do show up. And that's kind of been the thing. Legacy showing up just a little bit more often than Atomic Boom, which I think is what's giving Flashpoint that step forward.
I like how quickly Legacy is willing to go and pop the ultimate in some situations. Yeah. Immediately after positioning, he goes for it, gets the damage that he is, as opposed to having to take even a half second can make that difference, allowing someone from the opposition to rotate towards that objective. Instead, you want to zone them away.
And being in that position that I would say is maybe a little bit more like what we typically see out of North American play, where it's very aggressive, fight all the time. Flashpoint has kind of adopted that style, and it's part of the reason they're so successful in Europe, is everyone else is a little bit more patient. They want to figure out, how do we regroup, how do we get into that, and the entire time that's happening, Flashpoint just hit the gas pedal. They're ready to go. They want to push you back. They want to fight. Even when there's only one of them left, you can always see they like, I want to get this one pot shot. Like, just let me hit once, at least to get a little bit, even if the damage is going to get healed immediately after. Let's always wanting pressure.
Everyone on Flashpoint is so willing to throw their bodies just into the fight. You saw in game number 1 where you were saying that it basically looked like a deathmatch on that payload because they're coming down using their ultimate and then dying, but it's okay because somebody else from Flashpoint just comes through. And it's a similar situation here where luckily they're not getting too staggered in some cases to the point where that can work against them. It's been enough to actually keep them in the fight.
It's one of those areas. And Bright Marsh, if you get staggered out, as long as you can stay alive long enough for the next guy to respawn, the payload is only going to move maybe inches at a time. So you can keep it pushed back. On Serpent Beach, you have a lot more room you have to buy for your team, not only in respawn times, but in the ability to get there. And they were able to accomplish it here as well. But again, the thing that really got them the defense for Flashpoint was the fact that they had their 2 front lines come up once everyone else died. So as long as you can keep things like that happening here, or try to figure out how to cycle it, because it looks like they're about to be on the aggression side of things. How do they spearhead? Who's got to do the damage? Mainly, I'm noticing Cassie, when she's gone, their entire push stops.
And then you also have to note when you have Saris and Grover kind of facing off against one another, and with the loadout that Grover's brought into the table to try and counteract some of that reach that can be difficult on a map like this that has those spread out moments. But then Saris, on the other hand, has had great healing modes, especially in the earlier part of the game before you can get those cauterizes rolling.
And it's just in this area that we've seen Saris, I think, come through a little bit more often, because when it comes down to it, Grover, that whirlwind, has been kind of hit or miss as to whether or not it's been very effective. We saw in Bright Marsh with Death and Taxes, it didn't do anything here. It's been doing a lot more, but Ancient Rage is going to be forced as they're already sitting 40% on the push for Flashpoint.
Swinging away, but there's the Midnight on that side as well. Hated on Xbox, pulls out 1 kill, looking for another, back into his normal form. But Maeve running a little low on HP and actually has to back off.
Looking to maybe find the shot. Prosper Logic going to be the one to get it. Hated on Xbox, not able to defend his teammate in that scenario. Maybe looking for some long-range shots to try and get a defense early. But again, noticing Flashpoint, Cassie's alive. The point is still, or the payload's still moving. Prosper Logic going on one side, going up into the air, looking for QD Neo.
Nice, I like it. Using the spike to reposition himself. Unfortunately, Grover did get to safety, and Logic gets actually punished by Richie. But the payload is in a good position for this 1 minute and 25.
These bombs are flying through, although not doing too much. Once the shield goes up, Op B goes down, holding the reanimate for now. And I like the call. You don't need to use it. You have a minute left. No reason to blow your charge too soon. Just be able to hold on to it. Have that ready, because you're going to get at least one more fight on the payload.
Couple ultimates already online for Flashpoint. We're about to come back up, but if you can get a good convergence off or something, and really follow up with the rest of your team, then that can be enough to close out the game.
Good lad coming around. I feel like once they get rid of Neil, that opens up a lot. Richie going around. Op B, the one who's going to be the main target. Already half health. The healing has to be dumped into him, but another hook pulls him right into the fray.
You lose Prosper Logic, you lose I Only Op B, and in that specific scenario, when now you're about to be approaching 30 seconds, it's going to take some time for your team to regroup, and Onslaught has spread themselves effectively on the high ground, as well as that side corridor that you often see maybe a flank try to wrap through.
And Atomic Boom's hanging out back there, pretty much in the thing that I've dubbed Leon's corner, Cassie's corner. Everyone likes to sit back there, and where he is such a perfect spot, because you either have to focus the payload or you have to focus him. As long as he can go through, that's going to make a big difference. Op B goes down again, not using his reanimate. 10 seconds left. I feel like Flashpoint are just going to fall back.
Atomic Boom with another pause for their end, but yeah, I like the fact that he's positioning over in the side, and Flashpoint, they're waiting to use their resources. The thing with reanimate is sometimes when you're at that 1 point until we win the game situation, you'll see people pop it a little early, get a little too, oh, I still want to be in the fight. But it is dependent upon if you have a team around you to actually maximize that potential.
And this is one of those areas we see teams, I want to say, kind of struggle with usually in their shot call. The fact that it's been held onto as tight as it has been for the reanimate and all their other ults that they have available at this point just shows to me that they're like, we might not get this push. It's okay if we don't get this push. We're going to go into it 3-3. We're pretty confident that with these ults, we should be able to grab this. And with the way things have been going, I mean, you get aggressive, you're able to find kills, picks, maybe pick someone off like a Maeve on the side, and it might open up a little bit more for you. So far, Prosper Logic, I think, say for that moment, has been relatively big and at least giving his team a lot of room.
Well, and you need the Cassie, you need the Zen. These have been great champions for Flashpoint to use to actually close out on some of these fights. But then on the opposite end, Onslaught's gotten some good picks on them as well. And as soon as that backline deteriorates, it's much more difficult for them to hold.
15 seconds remaining.
Just shot after shot. Hated on Xbox. And again, a lot of Onslaught, really. feel kind of hit or miss. They either have that big moment where it's okay, we got the kills we needed, we got you pushed back, we're really in control, and then immediately, all right, it just slipped right out of our hands. We don't know exactly how to go about and keep control of this. And with the way things are going, I mean, you need that iron grip on the point coming into this, because it's looking, again, like it's going to go 3-3. You have to get in, move in, make it your home, and make sure that Flashpoint know they are not welcome anywhere around there, not even on the side, not even to be able to look at it. They're not allowed to have that privilege.
And we saw in the first set where so many games ended up being 4-3 finishes, and both of the teams, if you had that chance to go ahead and try and fight for it or just wait till the next round, they often waited. They'd rather have the even footing in that last point as opposed to wasting and getting all disoriented and blowing all of your ultimates and then just handing it over in a 4-2 or something.
It's just in that weird area when you're up 3-2, you're just like, all right, if we use everything we have right now, we might be able to push it in. We might be able to close it out, and there's also a possibility that they'll just ult back and blow us up, and then we'll all die, and we'll go 3-3, and depending on how many ults they actually used, we won't have made it anywhere. We would have just used everything for nothing. So having, again, that just grip on your ults, being able to kind of keep that mentality of we're just going to save it till we need it, save it till we need it. Sometimes you might have been able to use it a few times. Sometimes it's better to hold on to it. But with that defense, Onslaught looking like they are still in this to potentially take a map.
Yeah, it's another game all banked on that last point. So if you take a look at the ultimates available, basically all of them on the side of Flashpoint. It won't take too long for Xin to charge that up. And then on the opposite end, a little bit before Ancient Rage and King Bomb come through, but I'm sure they can get some early shots.
I think the biggest thing is not having that Ancient Rage, specifically when you have the cauterizes, the kinetics on the side of Flashpoint. Hate it on Xbox is going to be in this very precarious situation of I can't just stay alive the way I want to. Grover's heals aren't going to hit me as hard. Whirlwind, even though it's up, might not do enough to make the big difference. And without having Ancient Rage online, he doesn't have that. Give me a second life. I need to stay alive and in this fight button to really kind of back himself up.
But alas, everybody, it all comes down to this very moment. Who captures, who's going to win the game in the Midnight to start things off, but offering the Scout to increase vision potential. 30% onto the objective. Good lad landing some shots. Wants to rotate around for a little bit of a finish, but Terminus ends up going down. Uses the reanimate to bring himself back. The convergence popped as well, and that's 2 kills in favor of Flashpoint.
Going to be able to find one of those with his ult, and now Prosper Logic going around. Neil is his target, and he wants to find him. Get rid of the tree, cut him down at the roots. And you're going to be able to just cut off Onslaught and their healing and their ability to stand here. 63% picked up for them, but Flashpoint now once again in control and potentially able to take a game. One more fight for Onslaught to be able to determine it.
Without Grover, it's going to be much more difficult for everyone to actually stand onto the objective from Onslaught, and Good Lad, great positioning, does get hooked in currently, but able to come out for the moment being. King Bomb activated, Prosper Logic billowing out, throwing down the healing with a whirlwind right onto the objective. That's overtime, 99% for Flashpoint. Another hook looking good, but not looking good for the Lifeline. Atomic Boom and Richie both getting kills.
3 kills taken out. Flashpoint having to figure out how to get back on here. 90%, they do not have time. They have to get onto the point if they want to fight Prosper Logic. Trying to touch at least to get some overtime. It's going to be stalled for a little bit, but are they able to get in?
Oh no, it's 99-99. Overtime still going. Ruckus finds his way onto the objective, but gets blasted on down. That's 4 kills for Onslaught. Overtime sets, and they get the victory in game number 2, tying up the set.
Just very, very close to not making it through on that one, but they were able to fight in. And once they got their grip, again, they held onto it. They stopped Flashpoint from breaking through, and they did it in the perfect way. The kills were staggered out. Flashpoint had to come back into that. Prosper Logic by himself, and then you have Legacy by himself. No one grouped up, and no one feeling as comfortable, I think, approaching the fight.
And that's the thing, some of the ultimates that came out earlier were getting decent value. You start off with the Midnight, and then you see the reaction on the opposite end, but right there in those final moments when you have Ruckus going in and having to stand alone, surrounded by enemies, then it's just too difficult to pull back from.
And you can tell, I want to just say, in the way they're acting at this point, that Onslaught feeling maybe a little bit more confident overall with the way they were performing in that one, and I think ready to approach the next fight.
Well, don't forget to vote for your MVP. Who do you think was performing the best within that game? What are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I have to give it to Atomic Boom. I think there's a lot that he was doing, even when it was kind of few and far in between. Getting those kills, the explosions when he was able to, made the difference for his team, specifically when he killed off Terminus.
All right, well, that was game number 2. It's tied up set 1-1. Let's go back to the desk.
Well, great play from Onslaught. They tie up the set, as Gabby just mentioned, and we all just saw. Rainy and Vox here on the desk for you as we get this set kind of discussed and then on the way towards game 3. This is now best of 3 for these guys, so they have a moment of respite to just relax and say, okay, we're not facing elimination now.
A little bit. I mean, they got admins in there with them going, oh, let's go.
Pick it up, come on.
Pick it up, like the Resurrection of Sky, like we just talked about a little bit off mic earlier. But that game was a strange one to me, honestly. It went 3-3, it went the distance, but it felt anticlimactic for what it was.
Oh, certainly.
The game turned around, you know, on the initial point fight, we have Onslaught in control, then Flashpoint gain control, and then Onslaught win it off a single Makoa hook. They pull the Cassie that's overextended, they lose their DPS, they can't zone properly, they can't regroup, and the game is over. And honestly, we have these picks in there, like Atomic Boom's Bomb King, that did a lot of work, certainly. We're starting to see more reasons why, okay, the Bomb King is banned at LAN for these reasons. It still didn't feel like the explosive pick that may have really required the ban in every other game so far, and I'm wondering, moving forward from here, how these teams will adjust, and if there's anything which will pack a bit more of a punch that they can bring to the table.
I mean, Atomic Boom, he did perform, and at that last point fight, we saw, you know, moments where he was able to grab that one kill, maybe finish off some of those, the targets that got hooked through. The King Bombs and were a little off, but the Grumpy Bombs were always giving that ever-present kind of focus on the objective that they could not take their eyes away from. Just think, I got to be aware of this. I have to be there. And it forced Flashpoint into some odd spots. And I think what you saw was a result of a Flashpoint team riding their momentum and then just making one mistake with iGoodLad going down. And now having that momentum gone, they have to see if they'll be able to get this back. And as you can see, the Onslaught, I mean, these guys are smiling. They're happy. I feel like relief is a great word to describe how they're feeling here.
Nobody wants to go 2 or 0-2 in a set and have to fight their way back through with a reverse sweep. The pressure just mounts. Now you're just reducing it to a best of 3, and for these guys, I mean, they're used to that. This is the format that they're used to playing online. You can do so much with it, and through, anticlimactic may be in the way it ended, but certainly a very back-and-forth battle throughout the entire duration. We had first blood in this game coming from OG Comedy Zenara, and with both teams having one of the Stigala on each side, you just send them both to the point. They just kind of sit there and look at each other going, you first, or do you want
am I gonna?
Yeah, all right, I'll put the axe up, and then Nara puts down the water's field, and you go, all right, I guess I'll just stand here.
Now, game 1, I don't think Onslaught had a Stigala on their side. If I am remembering correctly, they may have.
I can tell you right now.
And I know you can. That's why I'm waiting.
Makoa and Ruckus.
So that's what I thought. So the Terminus was actually the only Stigala on the side of Flashpoint.
With Onslaught banning out the Inara to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah, they wanted to remove that. They're going for, okay, we'll go for some more damaging frontliners, right? They're looking for the Makoa who can displace people, the Ruckus who can burn people down, but it didn't really work out, and I think part of that is to do with the fact that both Makoa and Ruckus fulfill a very similar role. They're that kind of aggro off-tank rather than your point tank, and as a result, you're left with Flashpoint being able to go, okay, well, we just put the Terminus and the Fernando on the point, and they sit there, and it's fine.
And I think now the fact that they had that counter that really worked well, that Orders Field just and the follow-up damage they had, the Makoa setup that provided very easy hooks on the side of Makoa when they're slowed and crippled like that. Jaguar Falls, this is where our last set ended, and it will be where Game 3 starts. Essentially the beginning of a best of 3 now between both of these teams, the North Americans and the Europeans. PS4, both members of that kind of console, and now from the separate regions, who will go in to the finals tomorrow. You know, this match is such a swing match right here, and I think momentum aside, if Flashpoint take this one, I think it's going to show a little bit more of a command of a drafting situation rather than just riding momentum. They're going to have to make some interesting choices and calls. Who do they ban here?
What do they take away? Again, probably not Khan would be the thing that I would go to. If we look at the previous game on Serpent Beach and look at everything that gave them difficulty, I mean, they banned out the Drogos after the first map, sure, and Buck was banned out by Onslaught, so that wasn't taken. Those are the first 2 picks which gave them issues on Bright Marsh. On Serpent Beach, for me, really, it was the Bomb King and probably the Inara out of everything else.
Yeah.
The Inara certainly just secured so much, well, security. There was that buffer which Onslaught had, which they didn't have in map 1. And now on Jag Falls, you got this compact map where Inara just reigns supreme here because she goes onto the point. She can lock off angles of entry with her Waters Field and her Impasse. maybe removing that might be beneficial. But then again, we always do have to consider the fact that point fights on Jaguar Falls have one big threat, and that is Granddaddy Torvald.
Oh, yeah.
And his gauntlet is just going to be able to, I don't know, send people all the way to Serpent Beach like a skipping stone at points.
That's true.
Want to go on vacation to Frog Isle? Well, you know, the airline is open.
It certainly is, and a very cheap travel as well, competing with Southwest any day of the week. I think Torvald at this point, though, has kind of been one of those non-factors in this set. People have not gone towards him. They haven't really looked to ban him out. I wonder if that will be a change. You could see Prosper Logic there, maybe just trying to get his bearings yet again after things had gone well for game 1.
The Torvald was actually picked up once in the previous set by Fable on Brightmarsh specifically, and it was used by Fable successfully to really enable the Xin pickup that they had there. They drafted in the end a Ceres, and on this previous game on Serpent Beach, remarked that, okay, well, I was almost expecting the Maldamba to be paired with a Xin here, and to give up the Ceres and allow that kind of flexibility of, like, the Xin goes off in one direction and receives Mending Spirits, and there's a Gord on the objective, but you can just run the Torvald with that. You can just provide that shielding instead of the healing and let that outer combat region come through to help augment what otherwise wouldn't be there. And now as we do see the picks and bans coming through, I mean, Flashpoint, they're just sticking with the Khan. And after a certain point, I mean, if Flashpoint don't win this and there's a thorn in their side that they have to get rid of, I'm wondering what it'll take for them to give this ban up.
And I mean, you know, you got to say that the first game went their way. Second game goes 3-3, and they lose because they have a bad zone. So is it the ban that needs to really be adjusted? Is it just the minutia, the little plays? I think Onslaught were in much better of a position to win Game 2, and they ended up doing it. Flashpoint much more in control. They take the buck away now. Onslaught have one more to go. I mean, this could easily be an Inara, this could be a Cassie, but I don't think they want to do that and leave themselves with no Stigala.
And I think that with Genos being taken off the table again, Onslaught have proven themselves willing to play the Grover at this point. I don't think that support pools being limited is really anything they're worrying about. Flashpoint will first pick the Inara here. They're getting their sustain-based frontliner online. They want to make sure that they can hold the objective, as really that's what allowed Onslaught to come back into that last game a lot, was just the fact that Inara can sit on point for so long whilst the rest of the fight happens around her.
They just can't stay away from me.
And Fernando will get locked in for Onslaught, giving them a tank to compare. As far as damage-wise, with anybody else in the realm, Makoa is still available. He's been available almost every game this set. In fact, I think every game this set he has been picked.
I would possibly expect, honestly, you see, they're going for the Makoa here. I was half expecting the Ruckus over the Makoa at this point. Again, both occupying that sort of damage off-tank role. Drafting a Makoa alongside a Nara does give you a little bit more shielding, though. You got line of sight breaks, which can be more valuable.
And in that truth, I think you're right, in a vacuum, but Legacy, he loses last game. That doesn't feel good. It's a bad taste in their mouth. Maybe thinking the Ruckus, that was the first time we picked it. We lost. Like, let's just go to the Makoa. That was the first time they won. That was also a big impact for them. So in many ways, we get rid of something that wasn't working for us, and we take something that worked for them and the Leon. I think this puts Prosper Logic back on a very comfortable pick.
Well, the Leon pick really feels, again, like, okay, you want to run the Grover? Again, I dare you. They're going for the Ceres. We know that death and taxes will be mandated because of this, and I'm half expecting at this point as well. Okay, interesting. Onslaught, I guess, at this point, they recognize that Flashpoint have two frontliners online. Go, we can leave that to last. Let's secure some damage. So the Maeve is picked up, getting some flank pressure in here as well. And also some a bit of a dissuasion, I think, at this point, to be able to run something like a Drogoz from Flashpoint.
Yeah, I think it's a strong option. And it's going to be the Maldamba, because you know what? That's what Stormer Avatar loves. This is where Flashpoint's drafting, I think, gets a lot better for me. Taking the Makoa, I think, was super strong. Taking the Leon as well to ward off of any kind of major healing, even the Grover, which didn't work well. And then they grab the Maldamba. Easy, and it's a strength. It's a comfort pick. They give up the Ruckus, and we'll see how Onslaught can pilot that. They did well with the Makoa, but at this point, it's about how well you can consistently just make that one swap, that one change, and still have the same type of performance.
It's going to be a tricky one. Certainly, there are a lot of win conditions here that we're looking at, and if Onslaught or Flashpoint might have the easy one on the execution in hand, I mean, it's really up to the players to tell us who's going to take it.
And it's up to the casters to call that game as well. Game 3, swing game here, as it's now just a best of 3 to determine who goes into the finals from PS4. Let's send it away and get this one started.
Game number 3, as Rain Day said, basically the first game of a best of 3. First 2 games completely negated, but who is going to win and pull ahead within this set? Is it going to be Flashpoint or Onslaught?
And honestly, I'd have to say, I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I feel like Flashpoint got a draft that they are going to be very happy with, but this is a map that I think has been very notable throughout pretty much all console scenes, when it comes down to it, everyone really likes coming to Jaguar Falls and maybe being able to change up the pace of a set here. This is going to be Flashpoint's choice, so they might be able to kind of flip things in their favor here, especially with, I think, being able to pull out that Moldamba.
And everyone's bringing out their A game for sure today here in the LAN. I mean, you saw the first set go all the way the distance to game number 5. We might see the same thing here.
And it's, I mean, honestly, just one of the things that it shows the competitive nature. A lot of these teams, immediately once they found out they were coming to LAN, once it got really close, they're like, we're going to start queuing in A. We're going to try and get as much cross-platform, cross-region play as we can, scrim against the Xbox guys, scrim against our opponents even, just to give us that little bit of an extra edge when it comes through.
All right, so Flashpoint on top with the votes, 68% to 32. So people still end up having some hope within Flashpoint.
And I think when it comes down to it, it's just the fact that Flashpoint, I think, is more consistent overall. I mean, that 4-2, it definitely felt a lot more in control when they won versus the 4-3, which was really up in the air. And that kind of tends to be the way it goes. When you have two teams that are close, but you have one that is going to take the set, usually if they take any losses, it's going to be a 4-3 that's 99-99, and it's just one really good fight, in this case out of Onslaught, really held back Flashpoint in that scenario, almost going their way and making it 2-0. So you have these teams really just going blow for blow, but eventually someone gets the KO.
And some of those smiles slightly dissipating on the side of Flashpoint after the last game, but maybe we'll see them back in full force depending on exactly how they do within the next one. What are your thoughts on bringing the Moldamba through once more in this set?
I mean, that's one of the things they had mentioned in their pregame interview, that they like it, that actually is one of the things that really opens up a lot more for them. I thought it was kind of curious that after having said that, they went Saris 2 games in a row, that it was one big up, and the convergences were on point, but I'm interested to see where these Dread Serpents go, where these stuns come out, because that's one of the things Moldamba can accomplish that other supports just don't have. He is a lot more controlling for his team, and if you have a player that can play him well, that will make the difference between a win and a loss. He can single-handedly push your team ahead.
Between Convergence and Dread Serpent, they are both very disrupting ultimates that act a bit differently. One pulls everybody in, the other one spreads them apart. So you want to make sure you have that synergy with ultimates from the rest of your team to actually be able to follow up on something like a Dread Serpent, or just hone down all the damage like a Ruckus could with a Convergence.
Well, I mean, one's like, you know, an AoE when you use your Convergence. AoE, dump all your damage into one spot. Whereas with Dread Serpent, and I think this is something that's big with the Talus, it's pick off that guy, pick off this guy. They are disrupted for this moment. Most of your front lines are running 70% CCR anyway, so they're not going to be there that full duration. You have to kill who you can, when you can. And so it's kind of this cooperative ult, but you really get rid of the main target that's threatening you.
And Talus making an appearance as well. On Jaguar Falls, I believe in the console scene is usually where we see him come out when he is picked, because of his ability to just navigate around some of those walls and have that mobility available.
And with a lot of the things they've been going, finally seeing Flashpoint, I want to say kind of flex away from what has been the standard today so far. Everyone kind of picking, I want to say, not the same 10 champions, but going through a list that has definitely been the tier list for the LAN, and finally picking up things that like, this has worked for us before, let's just go for this one. It will be successful, or we'll be able to change it up. It's 1-1. If we lose this, it's not the end of the world.
All right, everybody. It's time for game number 3 of the set. Prosper Logic is back on the Leon, and that's a pick he's definitely enjoyed. And we get to see more street justice served by Maeve for Richie.
And that one I think is going to be really interesting. Richie was very solid in that Maeve last game, made a big difference. But this map, not quite as good for Maeve as it's going to be for Talus. So in the flank matchup, Good Lad should be able to slightly take that advantage over it. It's just not going to be as much up and down the way things go. Prosper Logic, like you said, back on the Leon. And notably going into Wrecker, has the death and taxes. They're expected to shut down Neil's healing pretty early on.
And you see Good Lad with his loadout actually working to make sure that Rune of Travel is available more often. A bit of sustain worked in as well.
Eerie Presence. That's probably my favorite card when it comes down to Moldamba. This one is actually, I picked it up from the console scene. It might have actually been Storm Avatar that I saw do it. Every time you miss, the cooldown on it is just going to be immediately back up. And having that Swift Spirit, so this is going to enable a lot of his team, specifically I'm looking at Talus and maybe Makoa, get more aggressive, get in there faster, get out a little quicker, depending on where things go. But this is a very solid build, and just being able to kind of balance those two keeps your healing up, even if you miss it, but keeps you pushing forward.
Yeah, offering that save saving grace to the rest of your team with that extra mobility. But I love just seeing, you'll see players actually do that when they can just get that cooldown back, and it's, I missed. Okay, that
So,
one hit. So I can
my
stop.
Maldamba gameplay.
Is that your number one card? That's like what you
That
always
is,
go
it
with?
has to be in my loadout, or I will never be able to get a heal. I am terrible at Maldamba.
Sad day. But also just ensuring that you get the complete value out of your Mending Spirits is very pertinent, especially when you have those frontliners that are going to be standing on the objective. You have Makoa that will want to move around to be able to get that hook, bring them in for additional damage.
And it's in this area where you kind of have to wonder, is it worth, first off, 5 points for you, which most of the time it's going to be, especially, I would say when it comes to console, I think it enables it a lot more, and as well as when you are able to kind of turn into the fact that, is there anything that you'd really want to replace it with? Not really in this kind of scenario, so you'd rather keep that going and keep it up, and it just, again, allows you to be a little bit more potent, and I think that's part of the secret for Flashpoint being able to run it versus a lot of these other teams not being able to pick it up as well.
Yeah, and some of these picks, as far as the draft goes, being shifted around a little bit. We've seen Xbox on the Makoa. I guess when I say Xbox, he's hated on Xbox, makes it sound like he's a fan, but some history there apparently. But now it's actually shifting over to the opposite side with Makoa.
And that's, I think, going to be maybe a big standpoint. Last game, it was really just, hey, we hooked Cassie, we got her out of the fight, you're dead. Your team's gone, we don't have to worry about you anymore. This time around, it's on the other side. Hey, you're going to get plucked out of the fight. You're going to be the ones out of position. Can you actually find the control here? Is it going to slip through your hands? How is it going to work out? And I think, when you look at the other side, you have the Fernando kind of fighting against him. And again, going into something like a movable object for the CC reduction. If something happens to him, if anything gets hairy, he's not going to have the same damage output, I would say, that you might see out of Fernando's running more of a fireball-focused build. So this is one of those areas that Makoa might just be able to outfrag.
Yeah, Onslaught has a very aggressive composition on their side as well, though. And you have the Maeve that has huge potential for cleanup and switching onto some opposing frontliners. But I am excited to see exactly how they end up working with the Saris.
I mean, everything that they have, it looks pretty strong for them. It definitely looks really comfortable, but with the way things are, it's kind of up in the air.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and send it over to the desk to talk about our games.
Well, thanks. Welcome back. I mean, me and Vox here, luckily able to go to the bathroom because we had to make sure we were ready to chat about this game, and it is the swing game. I like to call this. It's not a playground. It's definitely a full stakes here. There's
Feels
no
like a batter swing more than anything else.
I guess you're right. Maybe not an actual swing.
You're throwing your momentum out of the crowd. You're trying to hit that home run. I don't know sports.
That's a big moment. That's a
thing?
big thing that you mentioned. It is a thing.
Okay.
And it's also a big word, momentum. And that's what I feel Prosper Logic, Flashpoint want. I don't know if pauses and things like that actually help them. Remember, I mean, they were kind of taking the lead in this game. They were really moving forward. And then that Surfing Beach game. Pauses, you look back. You can see the stress. I think when they get in their head, they're not as good a team. I think when they just play and they're really ready to jump up and feel fun, that's when they start really performing.
Less in the way of interruptions, more maintaining that focus, maintaining the atmosphere as well, I think, is really important for them. The levels of energy.
Totally.
Going through, it's only a best of 5, right, compared to the best of 7s, which
Right.
we do have sometimes. But at the same point in time, you do want to be able to really maintain those levels of energy, and that's difficult across a long period of time. The more condensed you can make that, the higher energy levels consistently will be, and going sort of like stop, start, it wears you down a little bit. It grinds you down. This does give the teams a little bit of an opportunity to think about how they're going to execute the in-game draft. I mean, they've already drafted their champions, but how do they want to play them? What talents do they want to choose? Where do they want to position? What is their strategy? And I think the teams have got to use this time as an opportunity to just make sure that they are feeling confident about what they want to do.
A good team is one that can keep their head in any situation. And you can see sometimes momentum-based teams, that's their biggest strength. It's also their biggest downfall. The fact that if you don't have that momentum, you are now 50% of the caliber that you would be. And that type of a team, if you drop 50%, you might even be able to swap another team from the PCS in with them if they're playing at 50% their best. So you've got to find a way, even if it's difficult, even if it's not your forte or where you naturally lean towards, to make sure that you are still ready to go, that you could still come out with just as much gusto, heading into these important games.
And so if you look at the teams then, what have they got available for them? What have they got for this next map of Jaguar Falls? We already, again, saw that champion draft through. Both squads going to be boxing out pretty well with each other right now. If we compare this to the previous Jaguar 4 game where the winner actually, as Onslaught does now, utilized a Mave pick very, very well, I mean, I'm worried about that pincer flank coming through. Flashpoint need to be prepared.
Well, let's send it back to the casters here. We're getting word that we are ready to go. So without further ado, let's go.
Yep, almost time for game number 3. We got to build that anticipation. It is a swing game, as Rainday and Vox said. So what better than to keep you guessing?
And this is a map that, honestly, with the way that these two teams have been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if it went 4-3, much like the last one, went 99-99, and then at the tail end, someone comes shining through like the hero the team really needs and is able to kind of sweep it away. Or it might be one of the instances where it's just, I feel like in PC, it's always EU's go-to map where it's just, we're going to 4-0 here. We're going to take it here, be in control, and try to take it. So that might be what Flashpoint's trying to accomplish.
That was really crazy to see in that last game. Just who's going to slide in at that 99%? But in the end, it's not the hero they deserve, but the one that they needed at the moment to actually even up the score line between Onslaught and Flashpoint.
There's a lot, I want to say, that's different for this map, or at least not the map, but also the champions that they've been able to bring into it. We were mentioning all the loadouts earlier, but just the way they've drafted has kind of swung away from the comfort zones, I guess, that we've seen in the first two, which to me feels like Flashpoint, again, recognizing this is who we are, like just accept it, go for this, grab your Moldamba, grab your Talus, grab things that are different, and be more comfortable there, and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, and in combination with some of the other picks we were talking about earlier, the Makoa, the Inara, how that can work. But on the opposite side, Atomic Boom, you were very impressed with his Bomb King play, weren't you?
And that's one of the things, I mean, again, this guy, and as well as Legacy on the other side, have religiously played Bomb King throughout online phases. But like they had said earlier, that was one of the first games that he actually gets through. And there were moments where it's just like, man, that could have been just a little bit better. That all didn't quite do what you wanted it to, but you could see the theory. And then when they were able to set it up, when Atomic Boom was able to get into a position, Op B, the Ruckus, pretty much anyone who happened to stand in front of him was not going to live long.
Yeah, I mean, personally, looking back at his play, we had the King Bomb where he just had to go into the corner. There was one where he did follow up really well. He got the stun onto one of the opposing members, right onto the healer, that then allowed him to just crush Avatar and then rotate over to the Terminus and punish. So if you can have more moments like that, a bit more clean in that execution of the ultimates, and when you have those prime positionings, making sure that you're not overstaying too much, then when he was like playing really well, want to see some more of that.
And that's going to be something that I think is interesting. So far, we've seen con bans completely, but I feel like there's starting to be a little bit more from Onslaught that might warrant your attention, and that's kind of something that Vox touched on going into game number 2, and I feel like it might have been hinted at through some of that there, where it's just, you're going for it, and I feel like that must mean that Onslaught has a really mean con, because I just cannot imagine saying, well, we think this is going to be really bad, so we should probably get rid of it, when you have things like the Bomb King, like the Inara during that last game, making it through and just doing so much work for the team.
Either Onslaught has a really good con, or they think they might play it, and we just don't want any con in this broadcast. We're determined to take him off.
Avoid con, avoid Ascension Peak, and only changes for OB70 that we're going to touch on is Drogos. That's the only one that matters to us here.
But it was great seeing everybody adapt in the first set to it, and here as well in set number 2 to OB70, because it does bring some interesting elements. We haven't seen Drogos in this game, but earlier got to see some of that play.
That one was actually, I think the biggest for me was just the fact that Drogos was almost completely devoid in console. No one really liked picking him up. It was just harder to hit those shots. You exposed yourself, and of course we hit a point where it was very hit scan oriented meta, and he just didn't do well. Now having that little bit of an increased rocket speed, you're seeing Fusillade Drogos even come out on console and even hit just as hard and do incredible things for teams.
Flashpoint, for the most part, rotate directly to the objective, except for Good Lad, who's going to be right behind Maeve. Attempts to follow up a little bit. OG Comedy blocking some of that way. Legacy gets the kill onto Hayden on Xbox.
And Good Lad just being able to shred through damage right now, though. Atomic Boom around the side gets rid of Storm Avatar. The healer's gone, which is going to cause a little bit more trouble. Flashpoint, though, they're sitting on the point happily, as Inara loves to do, and they don't really need to leave.
Lost their healer and now lost Talus, but that's still 81% on the objective. As you said, Inara's just sticking around, chilling, and this is my home. I'm building my walls.
Wow.
I'm cozy, and that's Flashpoint getting the first point.
I mean, finally being able to come in Onslaught just too late, and Flashpoint did something that you don't typically see when you're on even ground, but they really just win one fight, but they win it in such a way that Onslaught couldn't group up. They had no way back into this. Even now, they're pushing through this arch, even though Onslaught are just outside the door. They get rid of Richie, and Good Lad on the side is just an ever-present threat that they, on the side of Onslaught, don't really seem to have a lockdown for yet.
We're remaining pretty congested onto the objective for the time being, but Storm Avatar lost once more. Prosper Logic wanting to make his way up that side stairwell, but instead has a little bit of a retreat for himself. And once ultimates start to get online, that's when we might see some really big impactful fighting, because the payload's actually stuck at one of the choke points.
And Atomic Boom might be one of the big things for Onslaught, at least in terms of defense. 84% rising up on that King Bomb. Hexafire as well, both very good at stopping pushes when things get a little bit too crazy. But at the same time, you're in this position. 1-0, not the worst thing in the world. 2-0, honestly not the worst thing in the world, just because you get that comeback mechanic. So if you hold on to those ults once you have them, you might be able to come through. But there comes a convergence. Not really finding too much, though.
The Enlightenment on the opposite end as well. Richie with a triple kill on this Maeve. Looking for more OG Comedy. Nice cleanup onto I Only Op B. So Flashpoint, they're going to be slowed down for the time being and have to regather themselves.
Perfect aggression coming down from the Maeve. Exactly what they needed when they needed it. And you can kind of see, again, Elation coming through, getting a little bit of a stall and showcasing once again how strong this Maeve is. Hasn't been up to snuff so far in this game, getting taken down a lot by Talus, a lot through these flanks, much more difficult on the point. Right around here, this is where she can shine, and so far that is exactly what Richie is showcasing.
It bought them a lot of time. Now Good Lad actually rotating through, but Rune of Travel is back out of that one. Flashpoint still knocking at the front door. Atomic Boom rotating, landing some great hits, and this is exactly the positioning he had been taking earlier, but now actually stepping even more onto low ground.
Wow.
Wants to clean up Prosper Logic. There's your double kill. Nice follow-up from the rest of the team. And these are lots of kills going in the favor of Onslaught.
Atomic Boom finally gets taken down, but really just because he warranted so much attention that he was the only one that could go down. Onslaught, the rest of the members systematically pick off Flashpoint, push him back. 3 seconds left. They're not going to be able to touch even for overtime, so that's going to be a defense as Onslaught, even though that point did not go anywhere near in their favor, showcasing that they are still in this map for the long haul.
Just great sights. Richie looking like he knows exactly who he's planning to hit next. There was the triple kill. It happened on the opposite end, but you even saw with Atomic Boom. I always want to say Bomb when he's on the Bomb King. Atomic Boom.
Bomb King.
Yeah, Atomic
New
Bomb
skin.
King, that baby boy. But he actually had a lot going on immediately in front of him, but noticed Prosper Logic being so low on the opposite end behind the wall where he was attempting to heal. And yes, he traded his life for it eventually by getting so aggressive, but that in addition to the other kills were enough to keep Onslaught on the map.
And what I think was great about that entire engagement, specifically when Richie got his triple kill, what comes through is the convergence gets thrown out. Doesn't really pull anybody, but it pushes Flashpoint into perfect positions for him to just go 1, 1, 1, 1 and continue chasing him down. Now looking at the fight, 18% for Flashpoint, but it's definitely not as clean as it was earlier as they lose Legacy.
OG Comedy once again the first target for Good Lad, not able to burn through completely this time around, but 2 are down for Flashpoint. There's the Dread Serpent that we talked about potentially being impactful, actually separating Onslaught.
Going to be able to push him around, but that was right after Good Lad teleports back, not having anyone for the presence to capitalize on the CC. And so that Dread Serpent kind of goes to waste. Richie, though, maybe a little bit too aggressive, trying to do his flank thing, gets taken down as the ult going to be coming in, and that's going to hold him in place. Neil is the target, but he's going to get away.
Ancient Rage swinging away. Atomic Boom ends up going down, looks to find another. Prosper Logic cleaning up onto Neil, and that is 3 eliminated for Onslaught. Great follow-up. And a nice hook onto OG Comedy, who's skippity-hoppity over the side. Bye-bye.
Really good ult combos to fight their way back into it, and it always feels good when you force someone to jump off of the edge. Comedy recognizing that he would get really staggered if he didn't come down, but even as it is, he's going to be getting here really late. Atomic Boom gets 1 kill, but again, too late to the call. The point's been grabbed.
Another capture for Flashpoint. Time to push it on through, but Onslaught did a great job of holding the previous time around. They still have things like Midnight. Some of the other ultimates going to take a bit of time before they come online.
Looking to try and hold the same angle. A nice hook pulls Richie down. Luckily, it's Maeve, Mobility, and Midnight all going to be able to get you right on out of there as you're still in control, but looking for the same angle. Not the best, as Legacy is kind of expecting you to be right there. He's waiting for you to show your face so he can maybe hook you down and take care of you.
And that's the thing, using the Midnight right there, yes, Richie was able to stay alive, but then that's pretty much it. Couldn't use it as a game-changing play. Enlightenment from the side, but Prosper Logic trading out his own life for the hit.
Going to be able to get at least a little bit of damage, but it's not going to cause too much. The bomb's finally going to go through, not finding any kills, but Atomic Boom getting aggressive. King Bomb is available, but he hasn't popped it just yet. Looking like he might go around the back, going to be able to find one, and Good Lad looking for more as they follow up. Again, this backside pressure.
Hopped right over that Dread Serpent. Atomic Boom retreating to his original positioning. Richie for a bit of the cleanup, and Nara a little too beefy to break through currently, but Prosper Logic with a double kill to his name.
Finally coming back, maybe a little bit more impactful than his alignment earlier, and at least creating room. This payload hasn't hit too many snags. It was held there at the arch for just a little bit, but finally going to be able to make it on through. Closing in soon enough. Flashpoint or Onslaught need to jump down if they want to stop Flashpoint from getting this.
Convergence ends up pulling in Prosper Logic. A nice hit onto I only odd B, but there's still a couple members standing around to eliminate it for Flashpoint and Onslaught. Saris needs to get a little bit of healing before she can get too aggressive.
Perfect timing for their fights. A lot of damage coming down from Atomic Boom, keeping people locked away and shut down as it is right now. Legacy forced to use his Ancient Rage as they want to stay in this fight. 30 seconds left. They need to be around here if they want to try to find the push, but the Bomb King, the damage is almost too much.
Spends a lot of time locking on down to OG Comedy and the True Power right onto Saris's face. In your face, says Prosper Logic. Gets that kill, 2 to the name of Flashpoint. And the Good Lad also just great spray into them. But that Immortal's not going to be enough for Hated on Xbox. So Flashpoint still getting these picks, but they're getting picked off.
Good Lad coming around the side, going to be able to at least get one in Atomic Boom, but I feel like he's left all on his own. And one poor boy left in the airport, not going to be able to do much on his own. And that gets taken down, sent back home to spend time in the base with the rest of his team.
Yeah, and they can go ahead and regroup for another round. It's been quite the fight so far with Flashpoint, getting these captures, but not able to, in the end, just clench it with the push.
And being able to keep it even, I think, is the big thing right now. They are dominating on the point once it comes down to it. Every single time, even if at the beginning things don't go their way, they come back in and they just sweep it away. That's all they really need when it comes down to the end of the game. Once it comes down to that last point, even if you go 3-3, it just comes down to that capture, how well you can hold on to it. So far, they've been doing a great job of it. But they'd really like to be able to kind of swing that momentum right here. This is usually the round that does it. Whichever team capture this might be able to pull it into a 4-2.
And as far as Ancient Rage goes, we saw how impactful it was the first time around, resulting in the rest of the team cleaning up 3 kills. That last time, so many resources poured into trying to take down OG Comedy. And a lot of time had passed, but Richie making his rotation once more. Hexafire from Comedy himself trades his life for it. Storm, Avatar, Prosper Logic picking up the kills.
Hexafire not getting anything really out of that. Gets an Nara low, but doesn't find any kills and doesn't cause any trouble really for Flashpoint as they're now going to be able to get aggressive. Only 3 members standing. A nice cannon shot from Legacy to clean up one on the tail end. The shield comes up just in time to stop the hook, but this is the aggression you expect from Flashpoint. This is why they have been holding so well onto these points.
90% for Flashpoint as well. An Onslaught attempt to jump on into it. Richie picks one up onto Prosper Logic, and the rest of the team is there to follow, but Good Lad, he's ready to shred through. Doesn't care about the Midnight, but almost goes down. Finally eliminated by Atomic Boom, the Convergence on the sideline.
The fight's going to be good. Op B standing still. Legacy on the side, going to find a hook, but it's not going to be enough to get the kill. Actually brings the damage to him, and he's forced to retreat. Not going to be able to live long. Only at 9%. Would Onslaught take that one back? Flashpoint, they regroup, they come back into this. They only need to zone out just for a little bit to be able to take this one away, but Onslaught with an iron grip.
Flashpoint are just waiting for their entire team so they can group and push through this, because luckily there's no comeback mechanic in the favor of either team, so it does give them a little extra time. But look at that, a nice hook from Legacy, but it's not going to actually reach that far. There's the Enlightenment. Richie picks up the kill onto Storm Avatar, but a little bit of a trade back onto the enemy front line.
Perfect turn. Good Lad, though, going to be able to actually live through all of that. Finally gets taken down, but Atomic Boom was the one that could have changed it. They zone him out just for a second, but that's all they need. Flashpoint come in, take the point, and they pick up 4 kills in the process. Fernando kind of stuck sitting back on his mount, trying to figure out where to go.
Another great Ancient Rage from Legacy, getting 2 kills to his name during that interaction. And I loved how the team just waited. They knew exactly how much time they had to try and collectively group for a team fight. It went in their favor. Now they've got their capture. Tempting to push, but it's been a defense successful every single time so far.
looking to try come around the side. Good Lad going to be getting aggressive. Atomic Boom is really one of the ones they have to get rid of. King Bomb, though, not available. Richie looking to try and tear through at least one in Storm Avatar, now getting even more aggressive. Atomic Boom cleaning up the kills left and right. Inara stands in his way, but not for long.
We're a little under 50% on this push. Onslaught doing a great job of holding it down. They got enough kills where they're able to actually aggress right on top of the payload. But instead of staying there where they could potentially be vulnerable for a flank, they instead retreat to the positioning that they've enacted between the first 2 rounds. Right now, Atomic Bomb, or Boom, gosh, I can't do it! Atomic Boom on the Bomb King has really been capitalizing upon this very positioning.
I feel like that is the best sign when it comes down for Atomic Boom, is just the fact that he has channeled Bomb King so well that you can't remember his true name.
And
he has become the king.
It's in my face. It's right there. I see the double O's, but it's just not enough. He is Bomb King at this point. But another convergence, actually, thrown out by Ceres. 2 down.
Cheeky little bombs.
Onslaught, but still, yeah, gets a nice one onto the enemy support.
Not using any of the fun-looking skins, but as it is right now, they just need some fun, good plays when it comes down to it. This payload getting maybe a little bit too close for comfort, 85% around the last corner, but Richie finds a double, at least to push him out.
Richie with a double, looking for more. Flashpoint, they just keep getting low pick here, low pick there. That's forcing them to slow down. And you know what? I take back every time that I've called Atomic Boom Bomb, because he's not using any of my favorite skins. And how can he really be?
Well, he's holding out for the Atomic Bomb skin for Bomb King.
I guess. Maybe we'll see it one day.
Or he's just a nuke.
Noobler, but nah, he hasn't been playing that way at all. Has gotten some great picks for his team. Good Lad, on the other hand, also rotating very nicely. Overtime about to set in. Seismic crash into the face of Atomic Boom, and there's the Immortal. Fernando is still in it. Ultimate after ultimate. OG Comedy gets a kill with his Legacy. Prosper Logic. Oh my gosh, the double kills for Flashpoint. They really want to push through this overtime, that's for sure.
Legacy with 3, looking to continue that aggression. Shield comes up, at least to give him a little bit of cover as they push in. Richie in the air. Richie looking to go down relatively soon. One more shot gets him out of the sky. Dread Serpent can give him some room, and they're finding the kills.
Oh, another one onto Hate It on Xbox. So now Flashpoint continue with that aggression that we know and love from them. Right onto OG Comedy. Legacy with another double kill to his name. Ceres putting her face onto the payload, but I don't think that's going to be enough. May back into the action, zipping into the sky, but falling down in a way that he did not want to be doing.
Good Lad. Just a few choice kills at the end. Bomb King landed where he might have needed to be, but not in time.
So Flashpoint end up winning game number 3, puts them up 2-1 within this set, and some of those smile, they're trickling back. What is he saying? Oh my gosh.
Has anyone told them that the booths are soundproof?
I think.
Yelling at them, I mean, I guess it feels good for you, but they can't hear you.
See, I feel like we should have given all the players a heads up to start learning sign language, so that if they really want to trash talk,
really mad trash talk with their hands,
that's the only way to actually go for it. But who did you believe was MVP within that game? Flashpoint ended up winning, so who you got?
I mean, honestly, I want to have to give that to Talus when it comes down to it, or maybe actually Legacy on the Makoa. I think he did a lot of work, especially towards the end. I mean, he got a triple kill with that. His ults, when they were on point, got so much sweep and room for their team, being able to capture payloads, points, all of that. So I'd have to give it to him just because of the way he was able to perform for the team.
Well, the swing game has been completed. Flashpoint up 2-1 against Onslaught. Let's send it over to the desk for the breakdown.
Listen, if you want to trash talk, Vox and I realized you give him the old Torvald emote. You put the 5 hands up and you go. All right, and then because you're nice, you give him a thumbs up instead. You can't quite go there, okay? But we saw the intent. Prosper Logic, he should be feeling himself. Every time he's gotten Leon, he's looked dang good.
He has. Prosper Logic also plays an interesting style of Leon, where Leon is behind you. This is relatively unusual. Normally, Leon is a backline champion. Prosper plays Leon like a backline champion, just in the wrong backline. There's a case of identity crisis. Shout out to Rovenick going on right here. And no, it was just good play across Flashpoint for the entire duration. Their pushes seemed a little weak at times, but mostly because the defense from Onslaught was very, very strong.
Oh, yeah. And I think Prosper, you know, the confidence which they had, and again, another game where not just Prosper Logic, but the whole Flashpoint squad have a Stigala, they have a Terminus or an Inara, and Onslaught don't have any right? They play with the Makoa and the Fernando, the Ruckus and the Fernando, excuse me, and they just win the objective, and then they wait for these moments for him to pop off, and he does enough of amount of times to where it's only a matter of moments until you start seeing beautiful enlightenments like that turn the tide in your favor.
You know, that enlightenment was actually aimed at the Ruckus.
It really was.
Mayhem at the back of the map, and you go, you know, I'll take
Disappear.
it. I will take it. I will take it. But, you know, it's all good when it's said and done. Flashpoint do pull out the W, and Onslaught, they have a tough pick ahead of them. I think that one of the most important things that does come through from this is just the fact that, as you mentioned, the lack of Stigala, the lack of just core, frontline, objective-focused champions matters so much. You have the Ruckus, you have the whatever you want. You can put the Fernando there, and even if Fernando can hold on to an objective for a while, it's not quite the same, right? There's that kind
definitely
of
not the same.
Something's missing there. So definitely want to see an adjustment in terms of Onslaught's draft in the future. But also, I'm wondering, are they doing everything that they can do to maybe deal with this? The Stigala that do come out, whether it's the Inara, if it's a Terminus or anything like that. They draft the Bomb King, which is usually good at that. They draft a Maeve as well, who is excellent at dealing with Terminus, but I feel like that's something different which you might have to do to deal with Inara, and maybe even a Tyra Firebomb might be the solution.
You know, we saw it. It didn't actually end up being, you know, the key to victory, although it was close for Vex. And maybe now something Onslaught can look at. Obviously, super map dependent now, depending on where we're playing. I mean, they could be playing on Ascension Peak. We don't know. But that is going to make a big difference in terms of how the drafts go. Remember, Fish Market and Frog Isle are banned out. Atomic Boom was really the key, and not Atomic Bomb, but I think I like what Gabby's going for there, and I think it's coming across well. He was really the key for me on the side of Onslaught, Vox, because he continued to make these big plays. These full wipes were initiated by him and his pressure, and it fully reset these defenses. It's why I think Flashpoint had such a hard time pushing.
Problem is, Flashpoint did eventually push. That seemed like it was more on ultimate after ultimate after ultimate. It was a very, very long overtime push towards the end there. We had a lot of ultimates used in succession. Flashpoint, for example, would chain things together when they end up running, you know, the Makoa ultimate with Ancient Rage to keep people alive. Seismic Crash locks people down. You've got Talos, who's constantly causing a lot of issues. And on the other side of things, it's the same thing with Onslaught. Onslaught typically, though, less in the way of... how do I want to say this? They have one big defensive ultimate, which is Fernando's Immortal, and then the rest are very aggressive ultimates. They want to wipe the floor with people. So when they were pushing out something like a Hexafire into an Ancient Rage or something like that, or into a Shield, it's very difficult to actually really get something out of that.
I mean, I think, you know, you're completely right. Talking about setup and survivability, it's a different type that Terminus and Inara bring to the table. Inara's setup very AoE, not as much damage-oriented. Ruckus, not as much setup. Fernando, not any setup. And you could say that, you know, crowd control, running away from damage is a form of crowd control because Hexafire you can't just stand near. But she really sets up a lot of big plays to be made, sets up easy enlightenments for Prosper Logic.
The same thing with the Maldamba on the side of Flashpoint as well. You've got this big displacement ability, which those two, Seismic Crash and Dread Serpent, really end up being, right? Whereas on the other side of things, the only setup is a convergence. And everybody can, for the most part, avoid that. If you look at all the picks, the Inara was the only champion that would have really difficulty avoiding that, and even then you have your impasse that you can throw up if you're very, very quick on your reactions.
Ah. Oh, so it was Timber Mill. Okay, my bad. Either that was, I could have sworn Fish Market was banned, but that might have been the earlier set. So it's Timber Mill, and, you know, that's banned out, and so we're going to Fish Market. And this is a really interesting map. This is a good map for Maeve. This is a good map for champions. I mean, be surprised or not, Willow has her highest win rate in the game, and it's by a very large margin on this map, Fish Market. And it's approaching Terminus levels of win rate. And so at this point, you have to look at and say, do you mix up your draft? I think Onslaught have been definitely backseat in this set. They have not really made any big decisions themselves. They've been
playing passively.
Very passive.
Reactive rather than
very
proactive.
reactive.
And I think it's about time that they really kind of took the bull by the horns and made the steps, again, kind of bent the enemy team composition around what they want to play.
I think there's only one thing that, you know, has been the main issue that I've seen is that when you have Inara, you need a Terminus, or you cannot let Inara and Terminus both be available.
I was hoping you were going to say lack of Khan, but honestly...
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, I can't say that, but it may not be as appropriate. Considering
our iconic caster here is out punning me. I can't
not many people can. Not many people can. And I think, you know,
Well done.
I think we want to keep you around. You're not done, Vox. We got many more to go. And whole Masters Land coming up next week as well.
Absolutely, we certainly do. Lots more Paladins to come, but Leon banned out first for Onslaught here. I think this
Finally!
This has been a really big issue for them. It's not just the death and taxes, it's the precision which Prosper Logic plays this with on the side of Flashpoint, in the same way that they remarked earlier on that Cassie just isn't as effective if you're only hitting every other shot. I mean, the same thing kind of screams for Leon, but also Prosper Logic is hitting pretty much every shot.
I think the big key, though, is now this really throws bans into a weird place because, you know, Inara could get banned here. Terminus could get banned here. And if you do ban Inara, or you do ban whatever one you want, right? You force Onslaught to take it. Now, they're going to ban the Buck. Onslaught can grab their primary tank. Flashpoint are okay leaving that on the board, especially since banning the Genos, because they know they can get their healers later on. Saris, Maldamba, they're fine with that. Onslaught this time around, maybe electing for the con, and it is. First pick. And on Fish Market, you've got to say the reason is it's basically a given kill.
You got the delete button pretty much. It's
Basically.
what it is. It's like Torvald, just with less setup. You just pull somebody up, you throw them away, and they go skipping across the entirety of the map. Although if you're unlucky, they land on the other side of the docks.
Or if they buy Resilience, or they run something like Immovable, and then you grab Resilience 1, and you're basically, you know, going 5 feet. So that's a big key. Khan now being first picked means Flashpoint can properly pick champions that they feel either in their loadouts or whether it's itemization-wise are going to be able to succeed, not getting thrown off every single start of a map.
You see, I would expect from Flashpoint right here, I'd expect them to go straight in with the Inara. I don't expect to see the Terminus prioritize on Fish Market. It's a little bit more difficult to be able to play around. You're less in melee range of a lot of the backline damage carry, so you can easily force out. On the other side of things, though, that leaves you with maybe taking your off-tank as a champion like Ruckus. And Flashpoint actually fell with Ruckus, I think, on that Serpent Beach game we saw.
They did.
And you remarked that, hey, maybe the change on the other side of things for the Legacy to be able to play Makoa is a good thing. That now being banned out, which might be targeted, could be a big thing. But it is actually Terminus and Inara that are hovered right now, going double rock duo.
And there's a couple of things about this, okay? I don't think if Inara's picked up... No, there's not. But I think what's interesting here is that both of these champions are rock solid in the way that a lot of movability is not present when you're facing against them. The Earthen Guard, if she runs Mother's Grace, I don't think Khan will be able to target her for that 5-second duration, and that may be the window that he's looking for. The other aspect is Moji, with that barrier, I think is going to be CC immune as well and won't be targetable for that primary slot. I almost like the Terminus Inara better, though, because it means you don't have Khan Terminus to go against.
Right, and that's the problem, because Terminus will be the primary point tank. Khan is more of that kind of...
Let me roam.
Yeah, exactly. Let me roam, let me buff my allies with Battle Shout, let me just be a nuisance rather than anything else. Khan has relatively good damage. It is very tracking-based, so you got to make sure that you're precise with your shots, but at the same point in time, you can do a lot to enable your team. I am wondering maybe if there's if Flashpoint are looking to strip the Moji away due to maybe some kind of Khan Moji kill duo where you run around and you suddenly pop that Battle Shout and just burn through people.
Maybe. I think Moji just is... I mean, I think what Flashpoint have to be looking at is the Mave. It has been consistent every single time Onslaught have picked it up. It's been consistent in the first set. I think they're looking at... We may not want Fernando here because I think we are going to see the Mave come through with this Khan. That's going to be dangerous. We have to prepare for something that's going to be able to withstand. I don't know. I don't know what I would do here. I think I like their initial impression of Terminus Inara. But now that they throw Moji out there, I mean, Onslaught may just say, hey, Moji might not be a bad pick if they let it go.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned a lot of reasons why Terminus Inara is good. The problem is Terminus Inara does lack damage, and that's one of the most important things of composition drafting that a lot of people tend to go away from when we're looking at double tank, is the fact that you need a composition where you're not lacking in damage. You can't run an Inara and a Terminus a lot of the time on a wide open map because you're just missing effectively one person's worth of damage. Terminus might only get 20k when everybody else is up at 50 or 60, and that is a big problem.
Ooh, I think I just heard Mave.
Oh.
I think I just heard Prosper Logic say Mave. I didn't hear it. I thought I saw him say that. And so now maybe some keys into the conversation. I think Mave is definitely part of what they're looking at. The Drogo's hovered now. But could this be an early Mave?
I do like the Drogo.
Oh, look at me!
Oh, look at this. It is changing, actually. In fact, the Inara seems to have gone away as well. Drogos and Mave have been locked in. In fact, no,
Yes, it
changed
is.
around the last
It's
second.
Inara and
Inara
Maeve.
There we go. So I was a little bit surprised to see the front line disappear, but no, that is actually just that refreshing now. So getting the front line aligned, stripping the Maeve away from Onslaught, I think that's a really good decision because so far we have seen Richie play an excellent Maeve at times. They've been a big part of defenses, and now maybe they have the opportunity to use that against them.
Oh, yeah, and now you look at Khan. It's same situation that happened with Fernando. I mean, Maeve, Street Justice, burns through that shield. Hope Guard, although great in giving you that extra 30% rejuve right off the bat, is not going to help you to sustain less damage when that Street Justice pounce goes through it. Right now, Maeve counters Fernando and Khan. So this is just a perfect Maeve setup here.
Evan, I got a question for you real fast.
Yeah.
If a Khan and a Maeve, if a Khan uses their dash at the same time that a Maeve uses her pounce,
Okay.
does Khan throw Maeve?
I would expect to see Maeve's, well, I don't know.
Or do they
Great
just bounce
question.
off each other like pinballs?
They might.
Might be an interaction which we
Maybe.
could see. It'd be a great counter if you could sort of grab Maeve out of the air and say, no, sit down.
That
You
would
have
be great.
Potentially extended stun duration as well, but you know, I love the Drogo's Fernando combination from Onslaught here. I love the ability that you can combo Dragon Punch and Immortal, because Dragon Punch is really that trade ability move, right? You can,
Right.
I'll take out your front line, but I'll lose my life in the process. Immortal to keep the teammate alive is very valuable here. Flashpoint, though, they want to put more backline pressure on Onslaught here. They're going double flank, no damage so far on their team, and I'm wondering if maybe they might be looking towards a triple DPS.
Also, bad champions to throw off. Maeve has the double pounce. She's got a lot of air control. Zen has Billow, and he's got Whirl. Saris can go into the Shadow Realm very quickly. He's dropped down, and Nara potentially CC immunity out the gate. Or right after the throw happens. If resilience is picked up on these champions, it's going to be very tough to really get them off and maximize Khan. Grover picked up alongside the Cassie, and now it's Vivian.
Have you met my friends, Evan?
I mean,
they're here to stay, they're here to play. I do like this. It's great anti-air for Drogos, but I'm not sure if it'll be able to withstand the pressure of Cassie and Grover from range.
it'll be a tough one, but again, it's got to be tough since this is a do-or-die game for Onslaught. Flashpoint, with one more win, can punch their tickets into the finals tomorrow against Fable from the North American Xbox side. Let's see if Onslaught can put up a fight.
Hey, we got the Vivian. And I think it was actually console on this map in particular that's busted out the Vivian prior.
That's, I think, actually being able to look at the qualifying phase for this when me and Vox were looking at it, Vivian was not picked at all through that. So it's interesting to see it come out here. And originally I was excited for Khan, but now I have to be excited for Vivian.
Well, who do you think is going to win this game? Is Flashpoint going to close it all out in a 3-1 victory, or is Onslaught going to push this to a game number 5?
Honestly, it's up in the air. I really want to see how this Vivian is going to work. There's a lot that she can do right in this matchup, a lot she can do on this map, but there's also a lot that can go wrong with the range pressure they have from the Cassie, from the Grover, whereas Onslaught are kind of returning back to things they've been trying and admittedly making work occasionally, but I'm really putting a lot of weight onto Neil on this Grover for his heals. Can he do enough to make the big difference?
And sometimes on this map, you're left all in your lonesome. It can be really difficult to group in some cases. So if you have someone like Vivian that has a bit of that staying power and can be effective in those moments. And they got Legacy on the Maeve, and Maeve loves rotating around this map.
Really, really actually loving this loadout from Comedy, just being able to go. You can tell he's focused mainly on his shout because it's going to be CC immunity, get that up as much as possible. You're going to have a little bit more healing while you have your shield up, but that extra health, the best way I can describe Khan is just tanky. He's just really hard to kill, but not quite as hard to kill as a Nara. In a lot of instances, you have to deal with him in the right way, but he's not as hard to eliminate overall. So depending on how this goes, it might be a really big strength, might just fall off.
I want to see Khan just overpower someone and throw him over past the docks and just into the water.
The ultimate, I guess, not a diving board at that point. I don't know what you could equate that to with swimming other than just being thrown into the water. And most of the time it's not that violent either. You don't go flying, a few hundred feet.
It looks more clean than the water of Bright Marsh, that's all I'm saying. But everybody, we're going to go ahead and throw this to a quick break, so we'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody. Tigers here with Goremizer for game number 4 of the set between Flashpoint and Onslaught. Flashpoint currently up 2-1. And we're going to a map we don't get to see all that often.
And I feel like this is a very North American kind of strategy. Again, it's something that's coming through. You're running the Grover solo support. You're picking up Fish Market as a map. So you're just like, we are going to make this as region-specific as we can. This is a map, again, that we don't go to. But I feel like one that I've seen Onslaught go to in the past in times of peril. So this is definitely one they might be able to turn it around on.
Yeah, they're like juking us in the draft and everything. We thought we were getting OG at one point, both of our rock babies, but nope. Ended up actually switching it up, though, in the end with that Vivian lock-in. So facing off with some of that console flavor we know and love.
And it kind of feels like, I'm curious to see, normally this is a map where Torvald is usually big just because there's so many places you can just blow people literally off of the map. Khan going to be able to do that consistently, but only on one target, so it's going to be an interesting kind of swap up. His shield has been notably lackluster in games we've seen him, but a lot of the ones I think that we have seen in the past competitively, he's been played a little bit more aggressively than a lot of teams tend to favor for him. So I'm kind of curious as to where he's going to go here. His hit scan, his damage for Fish Market should be pretty prominent, but I'm kind of curious as to how it's going to work for Onslaught.
Well, that's the interesting thing, talking to some of the PC players at the Las Vegas LAN. There seemed to be some discrepancy in who believed that Khan should be played aggressively, who believed that he should be more of just a point sitter, squatter. So, and
then there was the other tier, which was don't play him at all.
Yeah, some were like, yeah, we're not worried about him at all. And then others said that they'd played him, but in a different capacity that worked during scrims. As opposed to how it was actually executed at the LAN. But here we are on the console side of things, getting to see it in action, game number 4. And it was banned to wave the first couple times, so now finally let on through.
And I'm wondering if this was Flashpoint finally recognizing that maybe we don't need to ban it, which means that this could be Onslaught's showcase of, hey, you need to ban it next time we come around, at least being able to show off some strength for it. I really am curious as to go again. His loadout was kind of run-of-the-mill, exactly what you'd expect. He's just going to be tanky.
And this better be a bad booty con for it to be banned away early on. I'm looking.
To spend one ban for 3 games every time to get rid of him?
The strats. I'm looking for him in full force here on this very open map with a lot of interesting high ground. And that's the thing, like we said, we don't really get to see it very often, but having the flanks that they do with the mobility of Maeve able to rotate around and then hopefully counteract some of that activity with Khan's throwing access on the other side.
And with the things that they have going for them, I mean, we've seen Atomic Boom now on Bomb King, I think 2 games in a row, whereas before he had showcased that Drogoz, which was very prominent during that first game, and I think still going to be prominent here as he pulls it out. Just with the damage output he has, if he can find good shots for it, it might make a big difference, but it honestly, I think, does fall down to how their front lines go about it, how exactly is Khan performing, because he is, I think, the biggest question mark, not only for console, but really just competitive, where the times we've seen him, he has not done well. And I feel like this might be just a continuation on his history.
And the awkward thing about this map is anyone who does try to go and just access the capture, they become very vulnerable to anyone plopped onto the high ground. Kind of same thing that you see on Timber Mill with those access points. So if you're a frontliner that is planning on doing that, then you need to not just have a keen eye to find exactly where your damage come from. Rely on the rest of your team to go find those targets and just be strong enough yourself to hold for as long as possible.
And it's also in this area where I believe it was actually Fnatic who were saying it. His ult just doesn't charge as fast as you really want it to. He doesn't do as much damage as some of the other front lines. And so there's a lot. I'm kind of expecting actually not going to go for it. Comedy goes for the Cauterize instead of a morale boost to try and get that up a little bit more often.
Morale boost is picked up by Storm Avatar, though, something that we have seen from Saris in times past because of how impactful that convergence can be. And some kind of little corridors that you really want to pull people out of, and that ultimate is one way to do that.
I really like this Vivian loadout. It's giving you 250 health, so you're at 2450. So a lot of things that might normally one-shot you have just one more shot in your health bar, and you were also increasing your movement speed and your shield health, so you might be able to stay alive a little bit longer. You can see Onslaught actually taking to this on both sides, looking to pincer.
I only on B, though. Early rotation onto the objective and not getting interrupted until that 36% mark hit. And there's your first blood onto Neil. You take out that healing. That is very imperative.
And now going to be able to go around. Atomic Boom so low. Up B gets credit, but Legacy, the one taking the Maeve away from Onslaught this time, showing that. And again, Inara double kill picked up once onto Khan.
Hated on Xbox ends up throwing it back into Alniapi's face for the time being, but still a lot of progress made for Flashpoint. Still great positioning and still zoning off the members that are alive on the side of Onslaught.
And now just pushing them back, holding them still. Flashpoint again, very similar to the start of Jaguar Falls. They just take the payload, or they take the point, get the payload. Now they're going to start pushing forward. They have tons of room to start out, at least 25% before anybody actually touches down and stops them. And even then, it's not the best spot to fight in for Onslaught.
Alniapi having escorting duty currently on the payload, and OG Comedy wants to make the rotation down to stop that progress, but Legacy gets some nice hits to at least force him to be a bit weary.
You know, the Mave here, it kind of has a double edge when it comes down to it. Partially, get it out of the hands of Richie, who's been doing so well, but the other thing is, very similar to Fernando, Maeve is going to be able to get through Khan's shields, and with both of them being on one side, that means her damage is going to be able to hit just as hard on these front lines, especially if you're going Street Justice, not if you're dead. So you're definitely going to have to work on that one. Respawn timer coming through, as this is finally getting a little bit of a hold. Onslaught finally looking like they're feeling themselves again.
Onslaught has been dominating this very particular part of the map where they can look down upon the push. Atomic Boom takes this Spildo onto the wayside. Prosper Logic getting the credit for that one. Throwing out the scout, offering some vision. And without Prosper Logic, Flashpoint, they have to be careful with how aggressive they get.
Looking to try and just push him back. So far, Good Lad actually having a very strong presence despite not really getting a lot of damage, just kind of blowing up shields at the moment. But once the shields go down, you can see all of those bullets do so much. A 70 clip is pretty big. And now he's just working on getting that ult up. The stun not going to come through as the CC immunity from Whirlwind going to get thrown out.
And 2 kills for Onslaught with the help of that sustain. A double kill for Richie. Itching at his scratch to go ahead and try and kill as many people as possible on this Cassie. A 6 streak for him, actually. And really heavily contributing to the fact that Flashpoint is pushed so far from the payload now.
And it felt maybe a little sloppy, I want to say, at the beginning of the game. Definitely a big switch to go from something like Maeve to Cassie, so now starting to get back into the role of it, feeling more comfortable. Richie in a position on a champion that we've seen success with in the past. And the question is whether or not that's going to be the big make or break moment for them. 50% on the payload. The kills starting to come through, and Neil's the first one to go.
Nice targets. They're all just focusing in the right places. Convergence actually ends up pulling a little bit down. Some more ultimates. Vivian bringing out her Sentinel's Legacy with a double kill. Prosper Logic following up nicely for that team wipe. And now we're in those final seconds of the push, but nonetheless, Flashpoint have a nice opening.
And this is one of the best things about this map. When you are aggressing, where are they going to defend from? You know exactly the pathing they have to take from the base to get anywhere to be able to see this, so just ride the payload forward. You're a Nara, you're not going to die that easily, and you have enough damage on your side to be able to get rid of anyone who might stand in your way.
Oh, the Dragon Punch. He takes a lot of damage, though. Prosper Logic right in his face before he could connect. Onslaught one down, but the Legacy has fallen himself. Overtime still going strong. Bulwark from Khan to add a little bit of that extra protection. But Prosper Logic, he is here, he is rotating, gets that healing from Saris and looking for some hunger to be filled.
3 people that they really need to kill, but Prosper Logic is the one that ends up falling. Finally, Neil going to get taken out of the equation, but Overtime's been going forever now, and Nara having such a rough time, but they finally get the kills and they push it in.
Good lad being a good lad and getting that double kill before he falls to Hated on Xbox, and that's exactly what they needed to happen with just the bloodiness there.
And that was just like explosive. Like, it all happens at one moment that they get it, and you could tell Onslaught didn't actually have the time to react. Those kills came through a lot faster than I think they were even able to communicate to their team. No one was able to come in. There were still members standing around right there, but they weren't able to do too much. But as it stands, we're again looking towards Atomic Boom, looking at some of the members of Onslaught. Who can make this back in their favor? Comeback Mechanic and Drogos. The Propel 3, but the Hot Swap 5. He's looking at a lot of time in the air, a lot of being able to stay alive, but a lot of hitting and connecting on these shots. Fusillade more than likely going to be his talent of choice, so he's expecting to do a lot of damage here.
Yep, and also doesn't hurt when he can reload just a wee bit faster. But once again, Flashpoint early rotate to the objective. Nara's main purpose, main job, nice damage onto Legacy before the Midnight actually hit, so he had to just retreat and find safety instead.
Nice shots on the shield, going to be taken down. Prosper Logic gets 1, but loses his life for it. Legacy about to go down as Comedy picks up 2 for that, and Flashpoint essentially pushed completely out of this fight.
Oh, man. Atomic Boom, OG Comedy picking up a couple very key kills because Comeback Mechanic in the favor of Onslaught, already passing that 70% mark. And as you mentioned earlier, the way that it's spread, not just for the actual push in the end where you can notice where the defense is coming from, Onslaught grabbing that point, but it's much easier to dismount anybody once you do get the kills, so they can't even try to come and contest your capture.
I mean, this map, if you are able to get a wipe like that, you have pretty much the perfect defense laid out for you. They have to come over a hill where you can see them wide open, like you said, dismounting, but being able to come through. Legacy finds 3, looking to be able to start this one out strong as a defense.
Legacy's loving the triple kills on this Mave. This isn't the first game that he's actually executed in that way. And the payload gonna be regressing just a little bit for the time being. I think Onslaught want to be quite particular in when they actually decide to push instead of just getting picked off here and there.
Looking to come around the side. Vision, very important to Vivian, being able to figure out where people are, and it gives a lot of information to Flashpoint as long as they're conveying that. Kind of helps you lock down maybe one Grover, one Cassie, who's been causing a lot of trouble for you, but they have to be able to approach it the right, and so far the fight doesn't seem to be finding its way properly for Flashpoint.
Hit on Xbox, leading the charge a little bit for this rotation from Onslaught, but unfortunately Cassie gets blasted down, and even Khan is running into a little bit of trouble with the sustain offered from his team.
They're split up so far apart right now. The damage is really solid. Nice daggers coming around the corner, keeping everyone low. Of course, Vivian having those sentinels up is causing a lot of damage, but Maeve knows her targets, knows where she's going, but immediately recognizes it might be a little bit too dangerous to stick around.
Wants to help out the friend, gets some nice shots, but unable to clean it off just yet. One down on both sides. Khan getting really aggressive. Hated on Xbox and Richie both picking up kills.
Flashpoint holding a really solid defense for a long time there, and then they just kind of threw it away by getting a little bit too aggressive, looking too much for the kills instead of, again, focusing on trying to hold back the payload. Op B gets too much there. Now he's sitting 10 seconds behind anyone on his team.
Yeah, this payload, it's just got to go ahead and pass over this hill. That's one of the most difficult things to do, so it can give you better lines of sight once you are beyond. But we have quite a bit of time, and it is right there, ready to be pushed through. Some dismounts coming through, but Atomic Boom actually gets the kill onto Legacy. There's a Dragon Punch. That one connects onto Eye on the Op B. Convergence pulls everybody on down on the side of Onslaught, and the Whirlwind Brute keeping them alive.
Hated on Xbox goes down. Prosper Logic gets traded out right there, looking to try and tie this up 2-2. The shots are so far so good. They get rid of Legacy. They get rid of Storm Avatar. The payload's slowly moving, but Op B's back.
Oh no, and that's a team wipe for Flashpoint, so Onslaught take that opportunity to push on through. And have you seen any Khan ults?
No.
So far?
I
know
have not.
every time I look up, I feel like he's at 100. I was wondering if we missed one at any point. I want to see it in action. Something. It can be very effective in slowing down an entire fight if needed, but right there, they push through without it.
Might be holding on to it. I mean, at this point now, you're tied 2-2, and this is a very essential moment when it comes down for both of these teams. Whoever gets this, especially since it's now been 2-0 on one side, 2-0 on the other, whoever grabs this point has a very distinct advantage. The push has not been an issue for either side, and this kind of goes back to the beginning of the game, leaning a little bit more for Flashpoint. But having that ult, that's just get rid of a Zen, get rid of Vivian, get rid of Maeve, get rid of Inara, get rid of someone for free, as long as you can find that kill, as long as your team takes them down.
I know he still had it up when they lost that defense in round number 1. I was wondering if it's been up this entire time. But here, Prosper Logic way into the back, finds himself Atomic Boom, rotates, just wants a few more hits to finish him off, and there you go. First kill of the round. Seismic Crash as well, Khan into a bit of trouble, but there's actually the nice Immortal from Nando.
I mean, just the flank tag team, exactly what you need from the two of them, finally being able to go around. The Sentinels are popped, though, and the damage is going to be good. Comedy, your shield does not last long while you are under the eyes of Good Lad right now. And again, the aggression. Flashpoint pushing Onslaught back like it's nothing.
And Nando and Cassie not going to be enough to go ahead and contest Flashpoint right now on the objective. 99%. There's your capture, 0 to 100. And Flashpoint up 3-2, 1 point away from putting away the set.
And now just holding on to it again. A very early start to this push, not having much of a contest coming down from Onslaught. And with the way things are going, they're just going to be able to roll this up, maybe 40% before anyone finally touches down. But you can see, again, separated Onslaught getting picked off one by one because of how separated they are.
A bit over 2 minutes to spare on this push. Good Lad running into some trouble, but luckily has some healing right there on the wayside. Another Dragon Punch has been activated, but not seeing any connect at this immediate moment.
Again, Khan ult still in his hand, not going to be able to do too much. as it comes through. Might be good at the tail end of a defense if you're trying to push back a Nara, if you want to kill right here. But I want to say I wish I had seen this come out a little bit more often. Even if you don't have the morale boost, you could have at least charged it up twice by now.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're trying to reserve it, I totally get that, and it is a difficult ult to charge. But I think it's also one of those things where it takes time on the champion, and he hasn't been out that long, especially in competitive play, to feel out when those moments are really necessary. And it can be a scary thought process of, if I really fudge up this ultimate, then I'm not going to have it when it's needed, kind of thing.
On the other side, though, Good Lad has his Sentinels back once again. Probably not going to pop them at 242 health. Definitely a dangerous position to try and go for it. But once the healing comes through, he backs off a little bit. Flashpoint might be able to use that to kind of get back on this. The payload so far very well defended from Onslaught, stopping them from really getting back, touching it. There's still a minute left, so there's still plenty of time for Flashpoint to try out.
And you notice, Xbox keeping his eyes there on the high ground, and Onslaught very much circulating the actual objective. Whereas Flashpoint, with a lot of ultimates available to them, almost all 5, and they're just waiting for their moment for, I think, prime coordination, try and select the target that's best to burn through, but Legacy takes the brunt of the damage from Atomic Boom. Good Lad looking to dish it on back over to the Drogos.
Looking to get really low. Storm Avatar has to stay alive right here, but he's stuck between a Drogos and a Khan. Nothing you can do about that one. Double kill picked up for Atomic Boom. Richie picks up another. They get the double-double. 10 seconds left. I don't see Flashpoint touching down.
That was major for Onslaught, and all ultimates to boot. They didn't have to use any of them to go ahead and just wipe their feet of those kills.
Exactly what they needed to keep themselves not only alive in this game, but alive in this set. As now it comes down to the last point. 1 point between Flashpoint and potentially taking this set and going to the finals. Whereas 1 point stands between Onslaught and pushing them to a Game 5 where they'd have to take not only, just another map completely off of Flashpoint when it comes down to it.
Down to the nitty-gritty. We saw the first set go the distance. I wouldn't be surprised if this one did as well. I love how much energy these teams are putting into their actual fights and just trying out new things as well in certain cases and being willing to push the envelope.
And just flexing around, being able to showcase that just because, a pick when it comes down to it hasn't been picked up as much, Khan being banned out a lot, but Vivian being pretty much nowhere seen in any of the other games, finally being picked up, just showcasing what she can do, the cauterize, the morale boost. Those Sentinels are going to be up a lot, and I expect them to be popped very early in this fight.
Similar strategy to what we've seen in the past. Energy Comedy wants to get a bit aggressive.
There it is.
There we go with the overpower. Nice pops him. Doesn't even have to throw him overboard. And here's the Midnight from the opposite end. Mabe hoping to turn the tides just a little bit. 39% in Flashpoint's favor, but they are down 2 players.
Exactly what Onslaught needed. Double execute. You kill one, you kill the next, and now you've opened up the door a lot more for you to be able to get that 39-39 as they take control of the point. And Good Lad, no Sentinels to his name, not a lot of health either. Can't find the kills.
Atomic Boom had rotated so far into the back, and lucky for him, he actually kept his life in the process, but there's a Legacy looking to leave his legacy in pursuit of these enemies. A few ultimates, Immortal answering the seismic crash, throwing up a wall for that difference.
Nice convergence.
Pulled in 3. Legacy to follow up with a nice hit, getting the kill onto Atomic Boom. It's another one in his pocket, and that's 3 for 2.
Looking to try and make it a little bit more, but Neil does get away with his life. Good Lad having to take up the role as the main damage dealer, pushing them back 81% for Onslaught, but they're not able to fight back in just yet. Even with the healing, they're going to have to regroup to come back into this, charging up the ult, get the Sentinels back. You have Zen, you have Spite, and you have Control, 93% for Flashpoint.
Spite is the only ultimate up at this very moment. Good Lad taking to this high ground, attempting to burn down into Nando, knowing very well he does not have the Immortal available. And look, 3 just circling from Onslaught right onto the objective. Flashpoint trying their darndest to keep in, and they just took out the sustain on Onslaught.
Once the healer's gone, the Sentinels come out. Atomic Boom looking to get blown out of the sky. All they need is one more shot, but he's around the corner. He's out of there. The front lines are the main target now. Get rid of the shields and get rid of their health.
Doesn't matter how big that clip is. He had to reload and couldn't get that last shot onto Atomic Boom. He's back into the action, but I only got B and Good Lad holding it down for their team. 99%. Overtime trickling on down, and Flashpoint take the set 3-1, and they're going to the final.
And you can see Prosper Logic super happy, immediately out of his chair, hugging his teammates up in the air. These guys are feeling ecstatic, not taking it as a 3-0, but still coming out on top and showing their strength on the other side. Onslaught definitely kind of sitting back, not the way they wanted it to go. They had a grip, They just couldn't hold on to it.
You got to give it to both of these teams. On the side of Onslaught, even though it didn't push to game number 5, they really put up a fight. This wasn't the only 4-3 victory within this set. But Flashpoint, they've been working hard throughout the season. They've been winning phase after phase after phase, proving their worth. They knew they were coming in one player short of what they anticipated, and even so, you would not be able to tell the difference.
And honestly, when it comes down to it, looking back at it, I feel like if we had seen con ults maybe a little bit more often, it might have been a bigger impact, because at the beginning of that round, it was definitely a big sweep, but that just shows even more how well Flashpoint adapted to it. They lost 2 members immediately, 2 big members that make a huge difference in their fight. And they were just like, all right, let's fall back, let's deal with it, and then come back in.
So who's your MVP of the game? Who do you believe had the biggest say in Flashpoint getting that victory?
There are so many to choose from at that point. There was so many members that did so many things right throughout all of that. Maeve, Vivian, and Nara. I mean, every single one of them did their role perfectly.
Well, that's going to do it for us here in the casting booth. Let's throw it over to Evan and Vox at the desk.
Thanks, Gabriella Gormizer. It's Evan and Vox. Rainday and, well, I guess Vox still. Damn it.
Being bamboozled.
You should have used your real name more often. Jesus, you. At this point, though, I think the only person who's screaming in any type of exclamation, it's Prosper Logic and the boys. You saw how excited they were.
Absolutely.
They win, and I feel like they felt it was going to happen all along.
You know, for some of them, this is their 3rd LAN event. This is the first time this team has made it through to finals in various different iterations, and there's a lot that they can ride off of with this now. They've gained momentum from this. They've gained good spirits, but they've also gained some valuable experience as to how North America plays.
Look at this. I'm looking at who was the MVP, and guess what? Right now, it was a complete tie, 33% between Prosper Logic and iGoodLad. And we had a moment in that end of the fight where I was watching with you, and I said, you know what? If GoodLad stays alive here, they win this set. And they had 70% on the side of, on the side of Onslaught, and it ended up happening. GoodLad, he misses a lot of shots, granted, but his Vivian pressure keeps them alive and in the game and ultimately turns the tide.
And so critically as well, it drew a lot of focus, which I found was very, very important. It drew sort of the Drogos to be able to target Vivian, the shield goes up, and all of a sudden, all of that damage potential which you otherwise have from a Drogos pick is being wasted on a target that you're not killing. You're not finding these 2-shot engagements, which you need from the Fusillade to be able to make good use of the time spent in the skies where you're otherwise vulnerable, and as we've just heard, Evan,
GoodLad takes the MVP. Great stuff from him. And I got to say, the Vivian pick, it is a gamble to say the least. And so was the Grover, but let's keep it here. I think GoodLad really just votes on and bets on himself. And I love players who make those choices. I love teams that say, listen, man, you feel good about this? You feel like this is the best pick right now? We played Talos. We've had success with that. We've played other things. We've had success. But you're going to go for Vivian here? Not even Victor? You're going to go for Vivian?
Well,
okay.
It's such a strange one that we never see it really enough to be able to make a good analysis of it, but the one thing that does come to mind is the fact that Vivian's drones, when she uses her ultimate, provide some long-range pressure, especially onto a champion like Drogoz, which might not have been really achieved with anything else. And also, it's hit scan pressure versus a Grover on a big open map. That's exactly what you want.
I also think that Vivian's information, I look at her as just the more tactical style of Victor. She gives you the info. Victor gives you a little bit more bang as far as his grenade. And at that point, you just knew that, Vivian somehow was going to turn the tactics of the fight into her favor. Drogoz, did such a good job of applying pressure. The con ultimate we saw, maybe not as much as we would have liked to see, but we did see it, and it was effective at this point. But the day is stolen by Flashpoint. They take it 3-1 over Onslaught, and it's a fantastic performance. We've got them in the interview booth right now, so let's go ahead and give a listen.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the both of you for making it into the finals of this Console Wars LAN. But I want to know, did you think it was going to be as grueling of a battle as it was?
No, really. There was only that team to scrim. We scrimmed a lot prior to LAN, and our results were much more satisfactory to LAN. They really had players that played a lot better now and performed very well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we played them before, like in scrims and stuff, and they popped off and really played a lot better than they normally played this scrims.
So going through that set, you have the 4-2 at the beginning, you're feeling good. After that second game, what really was kind of your rallying cry to get back into it?
Go on. We just tried to stay positive. We didn't want it to get to our minds and stuff. Like, we've played them before. We knew what they were going to play. So we're just like, let's focus on our game. We know when we play well, we play better than them. So that's what we focused on, and it worked out.
With all the con bans that were going through, you mentioned that you had scrimmed them. Was it just something that they had been doing in scrims so much?
Yeah, they've been practicing lots of cons, so we were just like, no, we're not dealing with that.
To continue to hit on that draft a little bit, it was a little bit weird from you guys for me. There was a couple of things that I don't think, like for instance, the Ruckus and the Bombkin got through a decent amount in that set. Do you guys think you're going to have to switch up the strategy against Fable, or can you really let Wonderful get on Ruckus in that set?
Oh, for sure. Like the way we drafted was like specific to their team, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But for against Fable, we've got some different ideas on how we're gonna draft.
What did Prosper Logic say when he was looking across the way? Was he trash talking when he stood up?
I'm pretty sure. Was it after the Jack Falls game?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, he was just questioning Richie why he was getting first picked on Wave. Because he kept walking up on the right stairs and 1v1ing him and winning.
So you talked about the fact that between the teams that you're facing off against, you're adapting a lot to what they would bring to the table. So how much time did you spend in practice just actually accounting for each team's identity?
Well, we prepared a lot more for this team than we have. We didn't prepare much for the Xbox teams at all. It's probably what we'll do for the rest of the day. But against that team, we had a lot of scrim hours against them. We basically had every player downloaded, and they had us too. There was really no tricks we or they had. So,
well, I'd once again like to congratulate you on your win there, and anything you have to say for your opponents in the finals.
Hope we have a good game.
Well, thank you both for being here. Congratulations once again. We'll have to go ahead and take it to a break and see what happens next.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Sai, good lad there. And Storm Avatar, I feel like I just walked into a Liam Neeson movie or something like that. But it was an incredible performance from them, and great to see those guys in action. I love the post and pregame interview thing. I'm loving that.
I love the contrast that we see, actually, with the teams where, oh, this is what they thought going into it. Afterwards, yeah, that was no problem. Or just let the sweat dripping down their brows going, that happened, okay.
Yeah, and Prosper Logic definitely doing some trash talk, guys. But, of course, he's the one who's going to be playing tomorrow. Let's take a look at what you can expect for tomorrow's Paladins Console Wars. There's only one game, which means should you be late, Jimmy, little Teresa, little Marjorie, who's watching on Mixer? No, you got to be on time, 11 a.m. Imagine me as parent, Father Rain Day, telling you, get to bed early tonight, get ready to watch 11 a.m. Eastern time, because you not want to miss Fable versus Flashpoint. And, of course, you don't want to miss the one, the only, HRX. We've got tickets on sale, guys. I mean, I assume you all will be there. If you're not, I don't know what you're thinking you're doing during that time, but it's not going to be as cool as HRX. I'll be there. Vox maybe will be there. I guess he'll be there. He'll cry if he's not there, so we'll make sure that he's there.
I will swim across the ocean.
He will. He will. And he's not Michael Phelps, guys. You don't want that. I'm not sure he'll get there if he has to swim.
Leave in about yesterday.
Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you. Paladins Console Wars Day 1's a wrap. Fable, Flashpoint. Can't wait to see him tomorrow. And well, as always, friends, remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and we'll see you all in the realm.